don't. It's just and there's so much about the South that I love.
The food.
Not the least of which is Cracker Barrel. We have
Dude.
Cracker Barrels out here, but we don't got a lot of them. But in the South, you can't spit your chewing tobacco without hitting a Cracker Barrel. All right, hang on a second. All right, people are we are live now. By the way, I just want to let you when they can't see you yet. They can just hear you.
I waved emoji.
There you go. Can you guys hear me and Douglas from the limited run Douglas folk? Can you guys hear us? Let me make sure we're up and okay. Are we doing it? Come on now. Somebody
Josh is about to be ready.
Somebody answer my goddamn question. Can you guys hear me and Douglas on the goddamn show?
I tell you what, let me get in my vehicle.
How you gonna get? He's gonna get in his vehicle and come on down to the Cracker Barrel. All right, hang on a second.
Fixing to get some Cracker Barrel.
Oh, fixing. All right. Kara Lynn waves back at you. That's what she says to tell you. Okay.
Nice.
Let me send out a tweet letting people know we're live. That's gone. Boom. Let me send out the Discord letting people know we're live. And we are gonna get right here started. Okay. Here we go. So, fellas and filettis, welcome to a very special edition of the Gabbin' in the Games. Over there on your left, is it Doug, Dougie, Douglas, D-Man? What do you like to be called?
I usually introduce myself as Douglas, but over the years, people have called me Doug and Dougie, and I just gave up, so.
Yeah, okay. Well, what do you like?
I prefer Douglas.
That's good. I'll call you Douglas. I had a therapist ask me once. I was telling the therapist, I said, I don't like it when people call me Dave. I said, I don't mind Jaffe. I don't mind David. I don't like Dave. I said, Dave sounds like the big fat best friend in a romantic comedy, kind of the sidekick. I don't want to be Dave. You don't want to be Dave, And so, but yeah, once you figure out what you like to be called, I respect that. So, Dougie Fresh, here we go. Now, your partner in crime, Joshua, is coming on to the stream pretty soon, correct?
He says he's in the waiting room.
Oh, he is. Little knucklehead. Okay. And by the way, if you're watching the show, these fellas, am I correct in assuming that you guys will take some calls from the folks watching?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you want to put yourself on the Discord, right now it's called The Last of Us 2 Tilo Waiting Room. At the right time, I'll bring on some calls and whatnot. And then here we have, late to the party, almost as late as Kanye West was when I saw him at the forum. We have good Sir Joshua. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you? Sorry for being late. I had to pick up my daughter.
I did the same. I had to move the interview because I had kids stuff today as well. So
nice to meet you, Josh.
Is it Josh?
Yeah, it's great to meet
Did
you.
I say Josh?
Yeah.
It's Josh and Douglas, but the last guy I interviewed, the guy I interviewed before was his partner. It doesn't matter. Jeff and John, it doesn't matter. How are you guys? How are you, fellas? Good. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for reaching out. I have a bunch of stuff I want to ask you about your company. What I don't want to do, unless the audience will kind of give us they'll give us a sense of which way the wind is blowing. Like, I don't know how many people know you guys enough to, like, I know your story, right? And I'm like, I've done enough interviews in the press where I'm like, oh my fucking God, do I have to tell the story again about how I started as a tester, blah, right? So I don't, but I'm, there you go. Yes, you have all of them for the most part. That was one of the games I tested. I don't know if people are going to want to get into the weeds of sort of what got you here. So let me, if you would allow me, go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was to say you could do it, or I think Josh has a very quick version that we've kind of toned down over the years. If not, I do.
Oh yeah, I was going to give you the pitch of what limited games is, but yeah, you do it if you got a quick one.
Oh no, I'm because you watched our documentary and stuff. I'm more interested in hearing what you think.
Okay, this is what I think your company is. Okay, which is besides super fucking cool. So Joshua down there at the bottom in the Brady Bunch squares, was a programmer, by the way, on at Insomniac, right? You worked on Gears 2 at Collective. Okay.
Yeah, I worked on Gears of War 2 at Epic. So
right.
That was back when Gears was still at Epic. But I did that while I was in college, and that was industry crunch. 95-hour work weeks while I was doing a full course load in college was probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever tried to bite off in my life.
And so that was enough for you. My understanding is from there, you said, fuck it, I'm out. I'm starting my own company. You went off and made a very cool game, which didn't do that well, but maybe over time it's grown. I thought it was amazing. Saturday Morning RPG. I think one of the reasons Saturday Morning RPG, there was another game around the same time that was out where it was, you literally played like a dungeon master and he had the little D&D, standee and his friends were around the table. And I always got them mixed up. But when I finally got my head around what Saturday Morning was, it was amazing because I'm a kid of the 80s, a kid of the early 90s. And I love Tim Schafer's, what was the game they did? Costume Quest. Yeah. And it's very, if you don't know the game, it's an RPG, but a lot of the fighting, it's very fresh. There's a lot of little mini games and there's a lot of, it's a light RPG, but it's really fun and it's very throwbacky to, Transformers and Ninja Turtles and The Wizard and all that kind of pop culture. It's almost like Ready Player One before Ready Player One, right? In some ways. Josh is like, no, you fuck. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But it was really cool. Has that game ultimately bloomed into something a little bigger? Because I know in the documentary they said you launched it, it didn't really do anything for you guys.
Yeah, so we launched it and we made a lot of mistakes when we launched. So we were chasing trends because the people who had invested in our company had really pushed certain things on us. I took some really crappy investment terms up front to get my company started because it was the only way to get money with no experience. And they were pushing, free to play, mobile, and neither of those things were the right strategy for this game. So it came out, critics liked it enough, and it found kind of a cult following, but it didn't really sell. And that free to play model, meant that even though we got 250,000 downloads during launch week, we made like $4,000.
Right.
So, not enough to sustain on, and our investors were taking 50% of that revenue. So,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, you can't really sustain a company on that amount of revenue.
No, and that even in North Carolina. I mean, the nice thing about where you guys live is I don't know if it's easier to attract talent or not there. I know, I was talking to the guys who have who worked at Bend Studio in Oregon, in Bend, Oregon, and it's a very challenging thing to get new talent there because they're the only game in town. But I mean, with when you guys, what was it, Wild Monkey or Crazy Monkey? What was your company called before Limited
Mighty
Run?
Rabbits.
Mighty Rabbits. They're all animals and they're wacky.
Yeah. So we haven't had too much trouble attracting talent because we're kind of a small, I wouldn't even say small game development hub. We're a, medium-sized game development hub in Raleigh at this
now
point.
Now you've got what, Insomniac? Yeah.
Yeah, Insomniac, Red Storm, Epic. There are some mobile developers here that are fairly popular, like Imanji, who did Temple Run. They're here.
Wow. Okay.
There's some other talent as well. I'm probably missing people.
Right.
There was a publisher of like war games in the 90s, like PC war games. Like they did like Sudden Strike 3 maybe. Like I don't remember what their name was, but they were based out of here.
Okay, gotcha.
So we've got a couple, mid-sized companies and then huge ones like Epic. So a lot of people come for Epic and then they get frustrated with AAA. They end up quitting because they want more time with their family or whatever else. And then they join the smaller companies in the area. So I would say most of the game development ecosystem is just supported by people that leave Epic for whatever reason.
Okay. And I want to get to your game development stuff in a minute. Real quick, by the way, just so you know, I always say this, and I want to let the audience know too. I've got like a monitor here with questions and chat, and I've got the Discord here. If you see me looking around while you're talking, I'm totally listening. I'm totally focused. I've had my ADD meds. Literally, I took my Concerta. I take it every day. It's super necessary. But I'm not being rude or disrespectful. I'm just trying to do all three to get you guys the questions the audience wants. So I wouldn't want you to think.
Yeah, that's all good.
Okay. Okay. So that game doesn't do well, although it's really cool and I highly recommend it. You can get the thing on Steam right now for like $7. It's really fucking fun. Okay. And you guys basically to save your company, you get this idea because there was another game company that had done it, but they only did it a couple of times or once. They had taken a digital game and made it physical, and they had made bank. And you're like, well, we could do that with what was Limited Run's very first game?
So after Saturday Morning RPG, to stay alive for the next 3 years after that, we took contract work, and we were building games for like hilariously small amounts. So we took some contract work with this company called Gun Media. They were previously like a consultancy that, they decided they wanted to start making games. And we agreed to build an entire game for them for $60,000, which was, an extremely small amount of money to build, a game with a team of 8 people on. So we, stretched everything we could to make that happen. The game came out.
Breach and Clear?
Yeah, made our partner about $2 million, I think.
What'd you guys make?
We made $60,000. That's it.
Oh, you didn't get any back end.
We didn't have a revenue share on that.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay.
To stay in business, we had to go back to them and say like, hey, look, you need to make a sequel. And they were playing Last of Us at the time, and they were like, okay, let's do a sequel and make it a zombie game. And then they involved 2 other publishers, Devolver Digital and Gambitious. So, we had 3 clients essentially on this sequel, and they all wanted a different game. So we had to build like 3 different games in one. And then we had to because they kept getting funding from other places and they didn't want to say no to anything. They were like, okay, we got funding from GOG and they want to add in online co-op, just shoehorn that in. And, we just had to keep adding things to the point where by the end of the development, the game was a turn-based, a game that could be played as either a turn-based strategy game where the player had control over the flow of time, or an action game. And at any point you could switch between, a twin-stick shooter or a turn-based game. And also there was online co-op that we had to figure out how to do with that. And it's like, you're a game designer. Like, how do you do online co-op when one player can be playing it as an action game and the other person can be playing it as a turn-based game with flow over time? So
that was like a mandate that came down from one of these publishers?
Yeah.
That was the other issue. It was like telephone. Like they would tell each other, and by the time it reached us, it might not have been the original idea.
This is why I tell the audience all the time. A lot of people watch this stream and they say, oh, I want to get into making video games. And I say, that's great. But go the right way. Start your own fucking company. If you can't self-fund it, do it on weekends or do it at night until you can self-fund it, or it's just being a developer work for hire is the worst goddamn gig I can think of in the industry. Because you don't, unless you've got a great publisher that you really like and trust, you don't know, what you're going to get. And you could have some bozo at the fucking publisher that thinks they're the next Miyamoto. And they're like, I want to do, twin stick. And they don't think through. They don't know how to procedurally design anything. And then you're fucking on the hook for their bullshit. It's a nightmare, man. And I've been in both seats. I've been the asshole at the publisher, and I've been the developer at the developer and going, what the fuck do you mean you want the game to do that? So are you guys now, because I know you, Douglas, were a musician, or probably still are, but you were going to go into rock and roll. You both were. I don't know if it was rock and roll. I don't know what you were playing, but you got out first, Josh. Now you're not programming, you're not making music, you're doing this. You have found a very hungry audience, a very, great niche of people who want to be served. You don't have to deal with these obnoxious publishers anymore in terms of that, in that way. Is this your calling? Like, are you enjoy with this job, or is it like, look, it kind of fell into our laps because we had to survive as a developer? I don't know if you guys are still developing. Are you games?
Yeah, so I still have Mighty Rabbit Studios is still operating as a separate company. We're still doing work for hire because, I prefer to be the designer and, a programmer of some sort on any project we're doing that's original. But we're working with In Exile now, and they're just more organized. Like they have all this documentation. My employees love them.
You're working with them as they hired you guys to help them out.
Yeah. So,
and if you guys don't know, In Exile is Microsoft's That's Brian Fargo's company that did Wasteland, which was brilliant. All of them. The last one was amazing. And they're now making Microsoft stuff.
We worked on Wasteland 3 and Bard's Tale 4.
What did you do on Wasteland 3?
So one of my engineers, Kurt, was a gameplay programmer. So he programmed a lot of the squad AI.
Cool.
Members that are following you around. And then my other programmer, Alfonso, did a lot of the systems. So he was doing UI, other gameplay systems. In Bard's Tale 4, one of my programmers, Adrian, actually did a lot of the quests. The quest system there.
Very cool. All right, yeah, that Wasteland 3 was one of my favorite games last year. Really fucking cool. So then, so you're able to scratch both itches, I guess, is my question.
Actually, this is actually relevant to you if you played, through Wasteland 3. My artist, David, actually put in a ice cream truck that basically looked like Sweet Tooth's car.
Was that was intentional?
It's he
awesome.
was told to make some kind of deranged. Can't remember what the specific scene was because I'm so busy with limited run stuff that I don't get a full taste of what's going on our development side. But there was some area that had a lot of like deranged clown stuff, and he ended up putting in something that he was using Sweet Tooth's car as reference for this piece that he was doing.
I think I didn't get to that. I love that. That's fantastic. So are you guys happy doing this? You're not making music at the moment. You're not making programming. This is the reason I'm asking is I always see that TED talk going around where people are like, I think the guy's on stage and he's saying, don't follow your passion. That's stupid. Find a need that needs to be served and go after that. You can do your passions at night, but if you really want to make money and be successful and be satisfied in a capitalist environment, following your passion is a one-way ticket to shit. And I don't know if I agree with them, but it just reminded me when I heard your story. It's like you've got this amazing company now, but is it what you guys want to be doing with your days?
So I am super happy doing what we're doing, and I'm I'll let Douglas say his piece as well. But I love physical games. Douglas has been collecting games for as long as I've known him, and I have as well. So. We're all about physical stuff. You can't really tell from the messy room.
Oh, I can. Douglas showed his fuck. Can you please?
Yeah. Oh. For the
audience. My! You guys got to see this. Look at this. Look at this man's room.
Yeah.
Office.
Yeah. Josh was in the office today. His background would be like all Transformers, Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, and all of those are one franchise behind you, correct?
Yeah, that's all Dragon Ball.
All Dragon Ball. The weird one though, fellas, is what's on his top shelf. I've never heard of a Kylo Ren stan unless you're talking about like, you want to fuck him, which is fine. I got no issues with that. But other than I didn't know Kylo Ren was that zeitgeisty that he really connected with that many people.
Yeah, my dad asked me too, like, what's your deal with Kylo Ren? And I was like, well, he's got daddy issues, and in the end, he gets rid of his dad.
There,
like, what?
Excellent. There you go. Well, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about physical, okay? Because I have come around recently. I mean, I went through a whole phase where I consider myself a minimalist now. And whenever I say that, people are like, "You're an idiot, Jeff. You look behind you." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's kind of a set." Like I was telling you, Douglas, if you move my camera around, it's just nothing. I don't need stuff anymore. But I used to have all of it, and I just went to some phase, and I just like, I'm good. And for a while, I judged people like yourselves. Not really. I mean, I wasn't a dick, but I was just like, that's such a waste of energy and time and resources. And then I realized, a year ago, it's like, I didn't realize life was difficult and hard and challenging a year ago, but when you realize everybody's got their thing that gets them through the night, right? I mean, somebody could look at me and say, well, Jaffe, it's not really healthy to be drinking Diet Coke and eating cheese pizza all the time, you fat fuck. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That's my shit, So I've come to a place where I really do look at collectors and I say, that's really cool because like people say, I like to have the shelf of games. I like to be able to look at my library of Sega CD games or whatever. And now I get it. I get that there's a warmth about that, or there's a safety or a connection or just something that brings them happiness to have that, right? I'm assuming that's why you guys do it. I mean, can you explain why you're into physical so much?
One of Yeah, so like Josh said, we had been collecting since we've known each other as kids, and Josh was always a little bit more active than I was. So he over the years, because I would go with him to some stores and stuff, I started being like, holy crap, I see why this is so cool. Like I think he would say the same thing. Like one of our favorite things to do is we'll get like a checklist of the games for a platform, and it's just so I don't. There's some weird rewarding feeling about checking off games and just getting them and like adding to that shelf and seeing it complete.
Okay, so just make sure it adds to the joy of your life. You enjoy it doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually love games too, so I want to play them.
Right.
So,
sorry, Josh. What?
It's momentary, fleeting happiness every time you get something new to put up on your shelf, and it's at least during the pandemic.
Yeah, during the pandemic,
it's been a way to kind of get through the whole thing. But for me as a developer, there's a certain permanence to physical that is not there for digital. And the driving motivation to getting into this was like, I knew that at some point these games that I had developed over the course of the 5 years that we had done Mighty Rabbit at that point, like these games were going to disappear. And these were games like Breach and Clear, where we sacrificed a lot to make that game. And it was like, if we weren't going to get money from it, necessarily, like we want that game to live and survive. And it's not going to happen if it's digital. Like eventually, it's going to get removed from services. It might exist on Pirate Bay or whatever, but who's going to be searching for it if they don't like know that it exists? But when you've got a physical game, especially one that's valuable from a collector's standpoint, like it stays relevant in some context. Like it ends up having a legacy and being discussed well beyond, the normal period that it would be discussed or be remembered. So I don't know, collecting for me has always been a way to just remember moments in my life. And as a developer, being able to just know that I permanently have my game, that other people can access it and play it and enjoy it, I think that was a super important thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say a lot of our partners tell us it's when they do the physical with us, it's a nice way to like close a chapter of their life. Like they have something to present and say like, this is a game that we made, and it's physically there and tangible to hold. And some of the developers even joke about how like they're like, now I have something I could take home and show my parents that I actually did make something.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I have kids. I don't know if I know you have a kid, Josh, at least because you were picking them up. Mike, I don't know how old they are. My kids don't. Everything they play is digital, just because that's how they get it today. I mean, they get Fortnite and Among Us and all that stuff. And it's really been interesting for me to watch the chat over the last year that really, a lot of them are really into physical. And I keep saying to them, it's like, that's great. And nothing's wrong with that, of course. But every year you get more and more in the minority. Like the new generation that's coming up don't have that connection to the physical. And so I wonder, do you guys feel that, I mean, are you even looking to, like, how are you going to bring in that new generation of gamer that, are you finding a young customer base, or is it all guys in their 30s basically is what I'm
Yeah. So when we started this company, we really thought that, our audience was going to be 30 to 50, and that was going to be, our core primary audience. But then we started looking at our data, and it was like skewing towards like 18, 20. And it was like, these are people that grew up in like the 360 generation. Like they had a familiarity with digital from, the first moment they got into games.
Right.
And I was actually selling games at a convention like 2017. And this kid came into my booth. He was like 8. And he's talking about like Wonder Swan. And I'm like, how do you even know what a Wonder Swan is? Like, first, it never came out here. Second, you're 8.
Right.
Like, what do you have? What business do you have talking about a Wonder Swan?
Right.
But this kid watched, YouTube people. There are so many different YouTube personalities that do game collecting stuff. And they have, I think, introduced games, physical games, to a wider audience. And it is skewing a lot younger than I would have ever guessed or expected.
Okay.
And you see this in music too, like vinyl.
Yes.
It's weird how young some of the people who are collecting vinyl are. Like, you've got 15-year-olds buying vinyl records.
That's what I was going to say. For you and I, we grew up in the CD era because tapes were already being phased out. And, you and I both got into vinyl, and I remember being interested in vinyl because I knew my parents had vinyl, and I feel like that's the same thing with games. A lot of these kids are growing up and they're like, I want to rediscover stuff my parents played.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's also you get more of a connection with a physical object. Like it becomes more of an experience almost, like opening it up and having to like put it into something. Like there's more of like a commitment to, experiencing and enjoying that thing when you do that versus like just like opening a digital game. I don't know how to describe it really. It's like getting up out of your seat and putting that disc in the drive, like you're committing yourself to like playing that thing.
Right. Okay, that's
so I
fair.
think it's a different experience.
What do you when there's all this stuff about it's almost like I wish more fans would just articulate it like that, because a lot of times they'll come at me when I talk about I wasn't that upset with the Sony PS3 Vita store closing. I'm glad for the people who care about it that they're bringing it back, at least for a little bit. But I was like, the number of, I'm not saying no one used those services, but there's, you don't shut something down that's profitable. The reason they were shutting it down is it probably wasn't making any money. They were losing the money, and they were probably going to do something else with that software in emulation or something like that. But people would come to me and say, yeah, Jaffe, but it's about preservation. It's about that was loud. That was a hell of a pop, baby. I always try to get my Diet. No. I always try to get my Diet Coke cans to pop like that. But what are you drinking? What the fuck is that?
This is Coke Zero. I'm a Coke Zero.
That's amazing. That's a good. I got to start switching just for the pop.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, Jaffe. It's about preservation. It's about preservation. And I'm like, well, preservation is, if that is really important to you, then maybe donate money to video game museums, or help get behind organizations that are convincing companies to sort of donate their source code when they go out of business or whatever. And I was like, I don't think it's really about preservation. I think it's about what you're saying. There is I don't use the term selfish in a bad way. There is a healthy selfishness about, this means something to me personally to have that experience that you were just describing. Why do you think they can't just say that? Do you find that like they almost feel they need to buttress up their love, which you just described very eloquently, and one could even say poetically, and they have to say, they have to kind of wrap it in some kind of societally acceptable nobility? Like, is there a shame to this for some people, do you think?
I don't know. I don't think people know how to articulate their feelings. I think that's, I
was going to say, we used to have a joke when we would open a new one of our releases that, there was a smell about opening a new game.
Yeah, fuck yeah. That's
and
true.
So I don't think Josh and I have ever been embarrassed to tell people why we love it. And I feel like we meet a lot of fans that are able to articulate it. But like you said, online, sometimes they don't know how to write it, I guess.
It's fair.
I think there are a lot of people, with the closure of the servers, the PlayStation Store, I think it was more like people being told that it was the end for the console they cared about or whatever. Like, I don't know if they really would have cared if I don't know if they really care about the preservation aspect, but it's like the minute the store gets shut down on the Vita, that's like Sony saying the Vita is actually dead now or whatever. It's completely dead. And I think a lot of people just, they don't want to face that something they care about, something that's important to them, is dead.
Maybe it is an age thing, because I grew up with the goddamn Atari 2600, and so I've seen, this is shit phases out, phases in, but
and me and Douglas are Dreamcast guys. That was our favorite console, and it's like, one day we just got a note from Sega that said Dreamcast is dead. Sorry, deal with it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, very quickly.
What's amazing, though, is, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you know what Pitfall is, but the guy who made Pitfall and all those early Activision games, they just opened a brand new company, and they're making brand new games for the Atari that are in boxes. And so, even the Atari still has new shit. I know the Dreamcast still has active developers working on it. So, but back to what you guys do, because I was surprised. I always heard limited run, and I thought that just kind of meant, all I knew about what you guys did was these guys make the digital physical. That was kind of it. I thought limited run was like, it's limited because it's digital, now it's physical, right? But the more I dug into it, which took 5 minutes, it wasn't some big secret. I just didn't know. There is a real collector mentality built in and baked into the cake, into the DNA of what you guys do. It's almost like you serve two people, right? You serve people who are really serious about collecting, and you just serve fucking hardcore fans who love this shit. And it almost seems like the more I do a little investigation about what you guys do and what fans think, they're at odds, right? I mean, to serve them both in a good way, in the best way, you have to alienate the other one, and which really comes down to the amount of copies that, I mean, I saw one guy on YouTube, I was going to link it. I don't want to like call him out or anything, but it was almost like, if some of these guys on YouTube are a reflection of most of your customers that are the collectors, I would imagine your customer service group is really good and really experienced dealing with this shit. Because this guy was so mad that you guys were like, putting out more than 2 games a month. He really latched into the fact that, and then you, Josh, put out a great tweet when the pandemic started saying, we are going to start releasing some more games because we don't want to fire anybody. We want to keep the company going, and we can make more money if we release more content. And you guys, as far as I know, didn't lay off anybody during the pandemic. But fans were annoyed because it meant there were more games. Because, I mean, are there actually people out there that they want to collect every single limited run release, and so they feel this sense of, pain when you guys put out more? I mean, what is that about?
I mean, it's definitely something we've noticed since we started. Originally, it was you guys don't produce enough, or you guys do too much. One of the things that Josh had discussed that we wanted to do during the pandemic was, like you said, we didn't want to lay anyone off, but we also knew that, people during the pandemic were also not working and they were strapped for cash and time. So we extended our pre-order periods. So we made sure that people had a much longer opportunity to get the games they wanted. And then we also worked with Best Buy to have games available at retail, so that way if somebody couldn't afford it or get it when it was available on our website, they had another chance to physically go to a store,
right?
Or buy it from their website. But I mean, yeah, I don't really.
But that pissed people off, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so there are a lot of people that just hate us. Yep. A lot of people hate us because some of the things that we do are just at odds with each other. We serve more than just like 2 groups of consumers. We also serve developers. So one of our primary goals, because of where we came from, because of the fact that we came out of, my game development company almost going bankrupt, we have always been focused around what can we do to make our partners the most possible money. Our entire model came out of I'm so sick of people saying, let me wait for a sale, let me wait for clearance, let me wait for whatever. I was literally watching people say there was a game they want to buy and they're like, I'm going to wait till it's on sale or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they get mad when it goes out of stock or goes out of print. And it's you shouldn't have waited. You should buy it when you want it. And it's I felt like if we established this model where it was clear that you're not going to have a chance for it to go on sale.
Right.
That would kind of put a little bit of power back with the developers to actually charge, what their games were worth. Because as a developer, it was pissing me off that I had to sell my game for a penny in some bundle on a no-name site, and that was the only way to get attention because everybody else was a penny.
Right.
How do you survive as a developer when you have to sell your game for a penny? And there was no business model built around helping developers get what their games were actually worth. So
have you found developers have gotten into profit because of you guys at a second bite of the apple?
Absolutely.
A lot. Yeah.
Can you say what one of your biggest success stories is in that case, where someone put out a game that was loved but it didn't make any real money, and then you guys got a hold of it and did your magic and suddenly it became a hit, or at least a financial success?
So I know, I can speak from my personal experience with Saturday Morning RPG.
Right.
We've released that 2 times physically now, and the physical revenue for it has been 3 or 4 times the amount that we've done digitally. And, I don't, for sake of not I I don't want to speak for any developers that I'm not supposed to speak for, but I know at least early on when we did a couple of smaller games that were more obscure, like our Sony account manager was saying like they made way more money through you guys than they did digitally. Usually we don't have access to our partners' digital sales, so it's hard for me to specifically say like, yes, we're doing more, but a lot of the games when we're selling them, our partners are actually earning more per unit through us than they are full price digitally.
Right.
Because the way that our revenue share is working and the fact that, we charge a bit of a premium for the physical, it's usually a $10 or $15 markup over the full digital price. That means that our partners, like even accounting for the split that we take in the cost of goods, they're making more than they are digitally.
Right.
So when we move like a ton of units, 30,000, 40,000 units of some of these games, it's like substantial revenue for partners that like, prior to us, like there was no way to tap into that. Like as an indie developer or a smaller developer, like you're going digital and that's it. Like unless you want to go to traditional retail where, wholesalers, distributors, publishers, they're all taking massive cuts and you're getting like $1 per sale or whatever. Like that sucked. So, that was where we came in, but a lot of customers just they hate how expensive our products can be sometimes because they are premium priced, because I don't want to discount one of our partners' works. Like I don't want to discount those works. Like our ultimate goal is to help them make money and continue to craft games.
Is that getting harder to, is that getting more difficult for you guys to balance those three sort of pillars of your company, the collector, the fan, and the developer? Like, because I saw you online talking about, like, you guys started doing runs. Your smallest run was like, was it like 750 for Oberdin? Is what I heard was your smallest run, the Curse of the Oberdin, which is an amazing fucking game, and you guys put out an amazing fucking package for it. But the complaint is that you guys print too little, and then now it's like, oh well, now you're printing more. Like now you guys are what, like 20,000, 30,000 is kind of
the typical model that we're following now is like, a lot of the bigger games that can kind of, sell well on an open pre-order basis, like we're just taking as many orders as come in over a 4 to 6 week pre-order period. And we're doing that for collector's editions as well with like Oberdin, for instance, the standard edition, just case with the game and the manual, like that was completely open. Anybody over the course of 4 weeks could show up and order that. But the
so you made the game based on the order amount. Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we take as many orders as we can, and we start manufacturing after the pre-order window closes. And that, if people complain about us, that's the number one thing they complain about. It's the amount of time it takes to get a product from us, because, we can't start manufacturing until we have those numbers. So once we get those final numbers, that's when we can really like start diving into manufacturing things. And, the last year has been miserable for manufacturing. It's like, you can't predict it. Like one day, like this thing is short or this thing is short, or, the next day you find out like vinyl records are like backed up to like, next year or whatever. And you're like, oh, shit, how did that happen? Like, it's just been
stuck.
Huh?
Or a boat gets stuck in the canal.
The boat gets stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And now your stuff's arriving, 3 weeks late, or, half the port workers decide to go on strike, or, whatever. And, suddenly your Doom helmets are sitting on a boat for 3.5 weeks outside of a port on the shore of California.
Right.
So it's like, this year has been crazy. And it's been hard dealing with it because a lot of people don't want to believe, if you say that there's a delay for whatever reason, even if it's been in the news, they're like, no, you're just making excuses or whatever.
Let me ask you that, because I've seen it. I see it all the time with people pushing back against game developers. When I was in it, it's gotten only worse. And it sounds like you guys deal with it as well. I mean, do you think people are just angrier these days? Or, I mean, because it seems like you're saying they don't believe you. It's like, well, what do you think we're doing? Wearing your fucking Doom helmet and fucking our wives and shit, and then putting it back in the box? I mean, what do they think you're doing with it?
We had people think that we stole the money once and like bought a yacht, and I'm like, we're in North Carolina, like where are we yachting?
Yeah,
like,
right.
I drive a Honda Civic.
Yeah, the only person in North Carolina with a yacht is Cliffy B, and that's fucking invite only. So He's in North Carolina, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so I mean, have you noticed that sense of animosity towards the people that provide the entertainment and the content? There's just this lack of trust and anger. I mean, maybe it's been earned. I don't know, but I'm just seeing that more and more and more. Is that just my weird myopic perspective because I spend so much time on the internet, or do you guys deal with that as well on a regular basis?
I mean, I spend too much time on the internet as well, so I feel like I'm skewed there. But
Yeah, we're glued to Twitter.
people definitely got progressively, as our audience grew, there were more and more angry voices, and some of that came, from certain milestones. Like we re-released Night Trap. I'm not sure if you remember Night Trap.
Fuck yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So we re-released that on PS4, and that was back when we weren't doing open pre-orders. We were just limiting things, and we thought we had enough copies because this is a game that's like routinely on worst games of all time lists or whatever. So we're like, surely we're not going to need more than 8,000 copies of this. And then it sells out in a minute, and we're like, nobody could have seen that coming. And people still hate us to this day for that. That was 4 years ago. And there are still people who hate us. They're like, I couldn't get that game, so these guys suck. And I'm going to take every opportunity to get angry at them.
So do you think there are people out there kind of like Funko Pops. They're trying to get every limited run game. I mean, you guys put a number on them and everything. I mean, is that part of the appeal to a meaningful chunk of your customers? Like they're really trying to collect them all, and that's why they're upset they couldn't get Night Trap? Because I can't imagine they really wanted Night Trap.
Well,
so
Night Trap brought in a lot of new people.
What was why would you want that game? No, I'm not being a dick. I'm like, what do you think the motivation is to own that?
So it has what I realized too late is that it has a lot of overlap with like B horror movie fans, like the kind of people that are spending like $300 on like an obscure out of print like VHS horror movie.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And that audience is actually huge.
Yes,
and,
that's right.
I just didn't think that like this video game would fall into that crowd. So when we put that on sale, like a lot of those people gravitated towards us, and they clashed with our normal customers to create this like insane demand for this product that we expected kind of lukewarm demand for, to be honest. So it was a weird experience because of that. Like we didn't expect it.
So the way you're doing orders now, you no longer have the problem of people not being able to get the game as long as they buy it in the window. I assume the special editions are obviously still special. So the scalping issue, which was a complaint early on, that's kind of gone the way of the dodo, at least for the standard editions, right?
So the funny thing is, the funny thing about that is that open pre-orders have actually like caused less speculator interest in the game.
Right, I would imagine, yeah.
Less scalpers and less speculators have bought the games, which has in turn meant that less of them end up on eBay, and the prices go higher. So,
Like, what's the most you've seen a game go for that you guys have put out on eBay?
Most of the hate we get these days is because of like one particular game, and it's Shantae and the Pirate Curse for Switch.
Okay.
I can't say it. It's like it's cursed, but this was a game that was open pre-order. You had 4 weeks to buy it. It was $30. Anybody could get it. Anybody that showed up that wanted it could buy it, and it's $600 now on eBay. And a lot of that, I think is just because scalpers were like, it's open pre-order, nobody's gonna want it, so they weren't buying them really for that purpose. So eBay, the only people that are putting them up on eBay are people who are like, let me buy 2, I'll sell one to pay for the other or whatever. And with a smaller pool of available like copies on eBay, the prices are, obviously driven up by that. So it's been weird that open pre-orders have kind of inadvertently driven secondhand prices up for our stuff, which I wouldn't have expected. But it means that anybody who's following us, that is there, is not missing the games that they want.
Right.
And that is the key thing, is making sure that, because there's nothing more infuriating than like really wanting something from a company like Mondo and then not being able to get it. and just like, being there at the time, like having everything set up and then buying it and then, not getting it, like 50-50, that person's never coming back again. And that's what we saw in PS4, when we were doing, everything was limited. It was like every time we had a release that sold out too fast, it was like half of our customers never came back. So we got to the point where, like, we were originally selling 5,000 PS4 games, then we were selling 2,500, and then it was like we could barely sell 1,000, and it was because not having open pre-orders was causing people to be driven away. Like they were just
do the collectors dislike the open pre-orders though?
I think the only people that dislike the open pre-orders are scalpers who don't realize that the open pre-orders are actually better for them.
Gotcha. Okay.
They don't like that we go to retail.
I saw that as well. They don't like you guys are in Best Buy, right?
Yeah.
Is it because they're cheaper at Best Buy, or what's the reason they don't like that?
It hurts their value, and they just, I mean, it's the same thing. They don't seem to realize that, like, it's not necessarily hurting things, because our stuff at Best Buy is still limited and it still sells out.
Okay. So where do you guys want to, like, do you guys want to grow to be, like, do you always want to be the small, comparatively speaking, small publisher that is doing these runs of 2,000 to 60,000, or do you guys have an eye on something like being the physical version of Devolver or 505 or Deep Silver? I mean, what's the 5-year plan for you guys with this stuff?
So we want to continue growing. Like, we want to expand our reach globally. So we're trying to move into Europe, so European customers pay less shipping.
Yeah.
Because that's been the big hurdle with getting more customers there. Is like they want to pay $15 to have an item shipped there. We're also expanding into Japan, so we'll have more reach in Asia, where we basically have like 30 customers in Japan through our regular website. So like, there's a huge amount of room to grow there.
Right.
I don't think we necessarily want to grow into being like a mega publisher. Like, we want to continue being able, like, but we want to help developers. Like, that's kind of my primary goal in life, and in doing this is like, I just want to keep helping developers and then making cool shit for myself. Like, the physical game stuff is like, I love it. I love when we get new products in. Like, I'm always happy about, everything coming in. But I love helping our partners, make sales on their game, so that like they can see that these games are desirable and people want them, and that they can continue making more games like these and have them be successful.
Do you ever have to say no with your open pre-order system? You would imagine, unless you just hate a game, you can have the smallest developer on the block come to you and say, hey, I'd like to make 1,000 of these. And you could have Sony come to you and say, I'd like to make the Uncharted Nathan Drake collections out of print. Can you guys do a really cool one? Is there ever a reason to say no to a developer versus you guys just being too busy? Like,
yeah, there definitely is. A lot of times, so Josh and I, our inbox, we usually get 1 to 3 people a day asking us about their game, and a lot of times there are risks. There's minimum orders with a lot of these platforms.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we can't just print like the smallest number ever. So we have to kind of like look at the game and kind of forecast internally, like, what do we think this could do? And then, like you said, there is, even though everything's pre-order now for the most part, we still try not to overdo our schedule. Like, I know that fans would say you've already done that, but like, we could be so much worse if we wanted to be. We could do like 5 Switch games a day.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would just collapse the market. And like I said, those minimums that we have to hit would never get hit. So
it really does no one any benefit if we have 6 games launch on the same day and nobody can afford like, say they want 3 of them, but they have to pick one. Like, we have to try to pace our schedule out so that, people aren't, often faced with the choice of like, I only have money for this thing. Like, I know that still happens, but like Douglas was saying, if we accepted everything that came along, it would be a much worse scenario, where almost every weekend people would be having to pick, their favorite thing out of the batch of stuff that we have coming out.
I have your website up real quick. That just so you know what the audience is looking at right now. I did for a moment have Cliffhanger Game Boy to show Douglas, which is the worst game ever made. But anyway, so I it's really interesting to me when you look at your current sort of main product line that you guys are pushing on the main page. There is really obscure as fuck stuff and there's big ticket stuff, right? And is there, how much does that factor in? Like, in a lot of ways, I used to look at your company and I used to think it's really kind of otaku style. It's really, not in a negative way, like hipstery. It's really just like, I am 8-bitty. It's had that flavor to it. In fact, I think you've done some stuff with I am 8-bit, if I'm not incorrect. But then you've also got stuff like Doom, and you've got stuff Republic Commando and stuff with Ubisoft. Is there a mandate of like sort of, are you trying to sort of have a style of what a limited run game is, or it's like just whatever makes sense in the moment?
So like Josh said earlier, like two of the core things about this company is that one, we're doing this to help developers. So like some of the more obscure stuff, we're doing that because we've enjoyed it and we want to do it. And then some of the bigger stuff, we're doing it because we're fans and we want to own it. Like, we're not going to, like, when Star Wars was like a thing that brought to us, like, we're huge mega Star Wars fans. We used to reenact scenes in Toys R Us. Like, we're not going to say no.
Right. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. There is no limited run kind of game. There's no like this is the kind of game we put out. That just is through happenstance. There was a period where a lot of your stuff was really kind of kitschy and cool and different from the mainstream, but now it's kind of whatever makes sense for business and what you guys dig.
Yeah, we still. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a like aesthetic or style of or particular type of game that we go for. One of the goals of the company is, a lot of people think that our primary goal is preservation or whatever, but it's really choice. Like, it's giving people a choice between physical or digital for games. And I don't want to necessarily like restrict that. Like, we want to work with small developers, especially on PlayStation where the minimum order quantities are low. Like, if you look at our PS4 selection, like we've done like 400 titles on there. And they're ranging, as small as like Futuridium, which is a small like Italian space shooter, and then as big as things like Star Wars or Shadow Complex with Epic Games,
right?
And Doom. So there's not really a limit in terms of scope or size or whatever that appeals to us. It's just like we want to cast a wide net. So we're giving people these choices and these options for games. I would really say the only like restricting factor is like we try not to like release games that are like, just they have nothing objectively redeeming about them. Like they're just objectively irredeemable. Like I can't say we don't release bad games because there are plenty of bad games that I still like. Like
right.
I don't think that like a bad game invalidates it from a physical release, but like there are some games that are just irredeemably, like, objectively bad.
Like what?
And like we can't release those. I'm trying to think of an example like that I would never touch. Like something that's not like so bad that it's good. Like
Three Ninjas Kick Back for the Sega Genesis. How about that one? How about that one? How about Cliffhanger for Game Boy?
Hey, I would do Cliffhanger.
Would you really? You would do Cliffhanger? Oh, you son of a bitch. You need to get somebody else in that chair, Josh. He's going to run your company into the goddamn ground. I mean, that's...
Josh bought an IP that when people see what it is, they're going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, oh my God in a good way, or oh my God, you're a fucking moron?
Like, you're either going to think I'm the dumbest person in the world for buying it, or you're going to get why I bought it. But, I can't...
When are you going to announce that?
So we're announcing it at during our E3 showcase.
Excellent. Oh, fun.
And go ahead. I was actually about to like mention it, but
Come on now. Come on now.
now I can't actually mention it. Like I was going to say it, without the context of the possibility that we owned it, but then Douglas brought it up. So
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Dang.
into a corner. Can't say it now.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Who is Carol Lynn? Does she work for your company?
Oh, yeah, Caroline's in our marketing team.
She is in the chat with all. I've never seen a potty mouth as bad as hers. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad for your company. I think it gives it some. I'm just kidding. She seems like a nice lady. So
Carolyn. Yeah, that's the other person.
Oh, I don't know. She sounds like she knows a lot about your company. So I'm like, oh, maybe she works there. Okay. So Mario False Scarcity, for a while you guys got accused of that. It's like you guys print limited shit. That's not a problem anymore for you. But people were asking me, they said, ask these guys about the Mario 3D World False Scarcity that Nintendo does. Ask them about did you guys see a jump in the PS Vita games or the PS3 games that you guys do publish that are still available? I don't imagine many are still available. Because they were going to close the store. Like, do you guys get affected by these kind of bigger company decisions that you can then kind of come in and maybe benefit from?
Absolutely. The Vita in particular, it started off really well for us, and then for a while it kind of like sales kind of slumped a bit, and then once they announced the end of Vita production, our sales shot right back up.
Yeah, but I was about to say that was kind of a double-edged sword, because they announced the end of Vita cartridge production in the US, and they told us with like essentially like 3 months till the shutdown, and they were like, we only have 78,000 cartridges left, and it's like, we had 30 games signed that we had to.
Wait, you mean 78,000 cartridges that you could get as a publisher to use to make your stuff?
That's it. They said you have 78,000 cartridges, and that's all you're getting, and you have 3 months to get all of your remaining games through. And it was like, at the time we had just signed 30 games, so we had to go through and say, like, how can we assign these? And they were like, and you still have to do the minimum order quantities. So we couldn't go below those to make sure all 30 games got through. So we had to like cancel like 5 games, which really upset our development partners, which really sucked.
We had to ask another publisher. We had to ask another publisher for their cards.
Yeah, another publisher donated cartridges to us. But beyond that, we had to go like significantly lower on production sizes for these final Vita games. And that has made Vita people go from loving us to absolutely despising us. They hate us, and they don't understand that, like, we wanted to run like 3 times as many copies as this, but we were backed into a corner where like we had to chop it down.
And you guys are really good communicating. I mean, you guys are on Twitter, you have a blog, it's not like you explain it and people just don't read it or they don't care.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier in this chat, people are just, they don't believe you. They
don't believe you, or they don't read it. It's like,
if anybody's watching this chat and you're mad at these two fine gentlemen, I want you to call in on the Discord or hit me up in the chat, because I'd love to hear pushback to this. I don't understand when they're telling you right now, I mean, they can't fucking shit cartridges for the Vita. What do you want them to do? I'd love to hear the logic these guys go by.
The problem is that most of the people who are mad, they don't see our communication about it. So they show up on the site to buy a release. Like our last one that we did on Vita was Papers, Please, from Lucas Pope, who did Overdin. And we had 3,000 copies of that, and they sold out like 30 seconds or whatever. And people who had gone to the site to buy it, like, they haven't seen any of our previous communication about like, Vita carts were limited. We had to chop down production sizes well beyond what we wanted. And because they missed that communication, because they don't see it, like, it's just like right out of the gate, they're like, they assume there's hostile intention on our part. Like, we're purposely trying to limit sales. And it's like, I don't want to,
why would you not want to make money?
Exactly. There's no intention when things are scarce or limited as, to that degree. We don't want to lose these sales because we want to help our partners. Like,
right.
When we don't have enough units, it's because we undergauge demand, or there was an extenuating circumstance like Vita where, we had to produce these carts. Like Night Trap was a case where, we just undergauged demand. We couldn't possibly have guessed, where that was going to land. And,
right.
Night Trap was actually supposed to be lower too. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
What about publishing stuff that never made it? Like, do you ever have opportunities to publish like a game that was never released or that was canceled, but you still have the code, or is that not really part of what you guys would want to do?
So I feel like, there's been discussions of that. I feel like one of the developers we're talking to about some Game Boy stuff is actually a developer who
I think
developed their Game Boy game, Game Boy Color game 20 years ago. And we're helping them finally, release that on a cartridge, and we're also going to release that on Switch, I believe. So it's definitely something of interest, restoring and reviving some of these lost classics when we can. But, so often the game industry is shrouded in secrecy, so we don't really know about a lot of these like canceled games. So there's not a lot of opportunities to bring them back. But we do things where, we work with developers to help them if they hit hard situations, like on we've got a game up on our site right now, Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl, which is based on,
I know. I played that game. It's good.
And we funded that whole thing because
you funded the game?
Yeah, we funded.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
The reason that it happened was Justin from Interrobang, and I feel like I was actually telling Douglas that I used to watch Next Game Boss, which you were on, and I was going I was going to make a joke that was why you were famous, and that I didn't bother with that. It felt like a bad joke. Anyways, Interrobang, I think, was on that show.
You should just throw them out and see what happens. There's no harm. Yeah. Go ahead, do your joke.
Anyways, Interrobang was on there. They're the developers of Jay and Silent Bob. They had done a FIG campaign for a different Jay and Silent Bob game, and about half of the funding didn't come through. It was like the investor funding, the SEC, real investor funds or whatever. But the game had funded on FIG, to the public, it had met its goal, it had funded, and now there was an expectation because money had gone out for this game, but half of that funding didn't actually come through. So we had to figure out with them, how are we going to get you that money? And I came up with this idea of funding an 8-bit game, an actual functional NES game, because we could build that on a lower budget, and then we would sell it as a functioning NES cartridge. And, that ended up making enough money as an NES game to fill in that entire gap from FIG.
Wait, but that NES game was the Mall Brawl Jay and Silent Bob?
Yeah. So
because the first time I ever heard about it was on Steam. I got a copy of it on Steam. I didn't know it was originally a physical thing.
It was a completely functional NES game.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It's when you play it on the NES, it's the best beat 'em up on NES. And I know it's against Double Dragon and Mighty Final Fight, but it's a really complex beat 'em up, and it was a homebrew game that we funded with a longtime friend of mine, a guy named Toma, who I knew him from the NES hacking scene way back in the day, and he used to make a cartoon on Newgrounds, and that's kind of how I really knew him. But he built that game with some other devs that Interrobang connected him with, and it turned out insane. And it was so good that they were like, let's bring it to Switch, and then let's bring it to Steam and PS4. So we've subsequently done physical versions on Switch and PS4, and we ended up making them on that game well beyond what they needed to fund the bigger game. So now, as a result, the bigger game gets to have a bigger scope and be a better thing.
And that's a Kevin Smith Jay and Silent Bob game as well. That was the original one they wanted to make. Wow.
Yeah, it was Jay and Silent Bob's Chronic Blunt Punch.
Did you guys work with those guys at View Askew or whatever their company's called?
They did have to approve everything. We didn't personally, but Interrobang kind of handled that. Yeah.
Right. What about the cover of that game? I mean, it's basically Double Dragon Neon, right? I mean, is that do you have a legal department that just wants to fucking kill you and say, I mean, you can do it, guy? I mean, because when I was at Sony, man, those guys understandably, you couldn't, they did not want to risk anything, which I get because they have a huge target on their back. They would have never let us have a cover that was clearly, aping or nodding to another cover, especially that was clearly in the same genre. Was that nothing for you guys? You just did it and it was out. Nobody pushed back. Nobody said you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we did it. We've done a lot of homage covers, and we've never really had a problem with them.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So it's worked out, knock on wood here.
Right.
And we actually work with the Arc System Works a lot, and they own all the old Technos IPs. So, I'm kind of hoping that, our good relationship with them, would help them overlook anything if they ever had a problem with an homage. But
that's the funny thing is, a lot of these homage games that we do, we end up working with the original ones too.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you play modern games?
Yeah.
So you just split your, there's so much to play, but you will pull out like an old, here's what I'm wondering. As a guy who grew up with the Atari, other than pure nostalgia, I cannot go back and play those games. Maybe Asteroid still holds up, but the vast majority of them, after the nostalgia bomb drops, it's 5-10 minutes, I move on. But I have found that as you go up through the years, you start to see, and I don't know if it's just game design getting more mature, but you start to see games, although the arcade games did it well, you can still go back and play Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. But I do find that I can pop in a Super Nintendo game and still be super engrossed by it. So is that, do you have any theories on why that still holds, but earlier games didn't? I don't know if you guys have gone back and played Atari games. You weren't around when they were new, but it's an abysmal experience. You don't really want to play that. I was playing Smurfs Adventure on ColecoVision the other day on emulation, and literally the character dies if he walks into a blade of grass. That was the obstacle. And you're like, what the fuck is this, right? Is that, you think it's just the industry maturing, or what do you think that's about?
That's hard to say, because Josh and I, we have a ritual every night together. We play E.T., and that's kind of the only thing we do.
But you do it ironically, I assume. Oh, okay, right. Okay, yeah. Okay, fair enough. You don't know. I don't know either.
In all fairness, I do remember, in high school, getting one of those plug-and-play Atari controllers and going to your house, Douglas, and we just sat there playing Breakout for 3 hours, thinking that there was some end to the game. We got past the first finally, and then it just all came back, and we were like, "What the hell?"
We were like, "It's gonna unlock the secret to life." We were so excited, and then it was just a reset, and we were like, "What?"
Yeah. What about, speaking of that? Because back in the day, Activision used to send patches. They were the only company that ever did it. If you got a high score, you took a picture of your TV screen, you'd actually get a patch for every one of their games. You guys have some of the coolest fucking limited editions I've ever seen. The Scott Pilgrim, which I think is a total dumb game. It's not a bad game, but it's a dumb game. It's not a good game. It's not bad, but people acted like, see, Jaffe, this is why preservation matters. We don't have Scott Pilgrim. I'm like, so? It's not bad, but it's just a standard kind of beat 'em up. It's a little too hard. It doesn't matter. The point is, though, you guys made a beautiful fucking edition of it, right? First off, is it like the cost of that? It seems like it must be insane, but I guess it's not. But what do those cost you guys? Can you roughly ballpark to make a special edition like that, or the Jack one that came with the fucking egg? It was beautiful.
For Jack and Daxter, we had to call in every favor in the book with our printing partner to pull that off, because we had this extremely lavish faux leather latched box that's it's big and it's foil stamped and it's rigid and it's got this really lush foam vacuum formed tray inside with all the contents, and we demanded that the trading cards actually be in a foil pack like they're supposed to, because I didn't want to settle for lap banded cards or a clear pack. I wanted to be able to open a full pack. So that was a really expensive thing to produce, and thankfully Naughty Dog was not driven by profit on that. It was the money that was made went to charity, but the outside of the charity, the other driving factor was to just make something really nice.
Right.
So that was a really expensive box, and I don't think people like understand that. Like I think we spent like, I think it was like maybe $45 a piece to get those produced. So like, we sold them for, and that was just for the first one. And the first one was sold for 75. So there was only like a $30 markup on top of that, which is like, maybe like a consumer would hear that and be like, oh, you should have only marked it up by $5 or whatever.
Of course they would, yeah.
In reality, it's like, when you buy a collector's edition on the shelf at a store, like those things are usually like 10% of the sticker price. Like,
right, that's right, yeah.
To get a collector's edition where the cost was more than 50% of the sticker price, like that's rare.
How do you decide which one gets something? Like, how do you decide which game? Because if you go to your website, some are blown out like a motherfucker. Like, holy shit, that looks crazy cool. And some are obviously nice, but they're not like the cat's meow. Like, what's the? How do you do that? How do you know?
Sometimes it comes down to our own personal, knowledge of a particular game or our like own excitement for it. So everybody at the office was a pretty big Scott Pilgrim fan. So for that one, we were like, we understand this IP really deeply and we want to kind of go all in on it. And then sometimes it's like, with Star Wars, Disney's consumer products team is like, whoa, you can't do that. Like, I don't care how cool it is. You cannot do that because some other guy's already doing it, So, maybe Mattel or Hasbro or somebody else already has the rights to that thing. And, or they'll be like, you can't create new art. You can use this one piece of key art and that's it. And it's like, okay, I guess we got to take one piece of key art and put it on 30 things.
Oh, so obnoxious. Guys, you guys did a run of Bounty Hunter, which out of all, I was almost like, okay, I should buy that because I don't buy physical. I haven't thought about that game in forever, but I'm like, oh, especially now with the Mandalorian and Boba Fett's back and Jango's back. I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to get that game. But yeah, I would have wanted something cool, and you guys are going to make me a fucking give up my minimalist card now, you sons of bitches. Because now I see all this stuff and I'm just like, that's pretty goddamn cool.
For some of the smaller stuff, what I was going to say to add to that is, we sometimes can't go as all out just because we, like I said earlier, we have to worry about the minimums of how much something could sell.
Right.
So like with the larger IPs like Star Wars, it's easier because we can say like, we know that this should theoretically do well because it's Star Wars. But then like Josh said, then there's other hurdles of like, what are we even allowed to do?
Right.
So we kind of have to, it's a balancing act.
Is it fair to...
Go ahead. For some of the smaller stuff, it's like, we really don't know, like, Shadowgate, for example, we did the remaster of that. Like Shadowgate, classic NES game, Mac adventure. We did a collector's edition for that, but it's like, that could sell maybe 500, 600 copies, worst case scenarios. So we have to kind of spec out our collector's editions to what we think the worst case scenario might be. And, if it's in the 600, the couple hundred range, like we really have to scale back, ambitions on those, because if you try to do some really cool piece at 500, 600 units, it's like you could be spending like $300 a piece to do those cool things. So like with Scott Pilgrim, we knew it was going to do several thousand. So it's like, yeah, we can do a hard instrument case, we can do lights and sound, but it's really a risk, like I wanted to put a TV screen in the Dragon's Lair box that we did. Because I wanted it to like play the attract mode.
Yeah.
Flip it out. Because we had this laser disc style box for it, and it had a slide out tray where everything was in there. And like I wanted there to be a little screen on there with play the attract mode video when you open it up. But it was like, what if this only sells 1,000 units, and then we got to buy 1,000 screens to put in these boxes. So we scaled that back. It just plays a sound when you open it now, but that's still it's cool enough.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple more questions about this. Because I have people, with because obviously, they're here on this stream and they're like, Jeffy, ask them about doing a calling all cars or whatever. And I'm like, of course, I would love that, but when you're dealing with something that was like sort of proprietary on the PS3, it wasn't like, it was written in, we didn't use Unreal or anything like that. You could do a run of that, assuming you wanted to, but it would only run on the PS3. Like you couldn't make a version of it if there wasn't already a version of it on the Vita or the PS4, correct? Bye, buddy. Be safe. Have fun. Text me when you get there.
So that is that.
What?
Did you respond to him, Douglas?
Yeah, I said I'll text you. Yeah.
So the with calling all cars, the crazy thing is PS3 games. We've done 2 of them. So we did 2 of the Oddworld games on PS3, and they sold fairly well. Like we sold 5,000 units.
But you have to have a PS3 to play it, though.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you would need to actually play it on a PS3, which is, it's cumbersome, but a lot of people have kept their PS3 hooked up so that they can play their PS2 or PS1 games. They have the original backwards compatible models. So there are people who have kept those up, and we found that kind of, when the platform holder starts to kind of ignore a console, that's when the fans of that console get really passionate about buying whatever's released for it.
Right.
And so we can actually sell more of a PS3 game than we can of a PS4 game right now in some cases.
And obviously when you're dealing with internet stuff, right, you guys don't get too much into that, at least with like Sony, I imagine, because so much of their stuff is back end of their servers and their matchmaking that, people are like, oh, ask them about do a Drawn to Death one, right? And I'm like, no one needs to be in the Drawn to Death business first. Let's make that clear. But that said, though, even if you wanted to, because the minute that thing boots up, it requires hooks into Sony San Diego server farm. Like, I imagine most of your stuff, you probably have never done an online specific title. Correct?
So we were in the Lawbreakers business.
The what?
Which
you mean Cliff's thing?
Yeah, so we did Lawbreakers on disc because I came out of Epic, and Cliff was kind of like the big guy on that project that I worked on. So for me, it was like this cool thing where it was like I get to help do something for Cliff, kind of on like almost a peer level. Whereas previously, I was like this guy like way down on the totem pole from him. For me, it was this real cool experience of getting to work with somebody that when I was in high school, like I saw him as like this huge major gaming celebrity. I knew about like probably like I could count the amount of designers I knew on my hand back then. It was like you, Cliff, Ken Levine. Actually, that's probably it back then.
Which one was the best?
You're gonna make me pick.
No. I would much rather know. I would much rather know the IP that you won't tell us. That's what I really want to know. I'll fucking pick. It would be Ken Levine. Ken Levine puts me and Cliff to shame as a designer. Ken's a fucking genius. Cliff's better than me. I'm at the bottom. Cliff's in the middle. Ken's at the top. And I think Cliff would agree. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead. So you guys put out, that's an internet-specific game, obviously.
So it's complicated. So I personally think that there is some merit to putting an online-only game on a disc just because of some things that have happened in the past with online-only games. So like if somebody wants to go play like EverQuest the way that it was, when it originally released, like you need a copy of EverQuest like Platinum or Titanium or something. Like you need a very specific disc release of EverQuest. And like without that, you can't play it the way that it was. So in many ways, like that EverQuest disc would have been this just completely useless coaster if fans hadn't figured out a way to like bring the game back online. But like, what if someday somebody decides like I'm bringing Lawbreakers back?
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
They bring back Lawbreakers, and the way that they do it is from using our disc. They reverse engineer it from whatever's there.
Right.
So I feel like there's some merit to it. And there's also, there are people who are just, we can call them hoarders if we want, but they're just, they want everything in a box, even if it doesn't necessarily like work. They want that box on their shelf. Like, it doesn't matter if the disc, loads to a menu and goes nowhere. Like they want all of David Jaffe's games on a shelf or whatever. They want to put Drawn to Death, Calling All Cars. They want that like up there with God of War,
Right. And God of War's like, get away from me, you fucking scrub. You can't sit next to me, Drawn to Death. Okay, I'm gonna bring in some calls in just a second if you guys are good on time. Is that okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me wrap my questions up real quick. So I know, and I don't know I don't know when you guys started getting into vinyl. You've got T-shirts. You've got all. I heard an interview with you, Douglas, saying you guys were toying with VHS for a while. Right? You guys you had an answer to someone saying that you actually had kicked around the idea of doing VHS copies, right?
Yeah, this is a weird thing Josh and I have been like toying with, and every time we bring it up to people, they're like, "But why?"
There's a great have you seen a documentary called Rewind This? It's a documentary about the VHS days in which I grew up in, which I loved and I'm very nostalgic for. But it blew my mind that there are people out there that are hardcore VHS collectors, and they're still making movies on VHS, and they're still renting VHSs in certain parts of the country. And so, yeah, I was kind of excited to hear you talk about that. But are you guys looking to the future in the sense that sooner than later, and is it like, dude, that's 8 years away, don't worry about it, we'll figure it out when we get there, but sooner than later, there's not going to be any more physical things to play this stuff on. Like, it's all going to ultimately go to streaming. You're not really going to have a Scott Pilgrim in any form at all, because what can you do with it? Right? I mean, is that a long-term problem that you're not even thinking about, or is that?
We think about it a lot. We talk about like, what can we do to, keep providing cool stuff to people and like, still preserving stuff. Like we all think that like Nintendo will take the longest to finally ditch physical, but even outside of that, VHS is the future. No, I'm just kidding. But, the retro stuff we're doing, like with Jay and Silent Bob, did really well. That's stuff that we want to continue to do. Like, there will always be something we can find.
So wait, even though you're saying Jay and Silent Bob, even if it's not physical, it's still a retro product? What do you?
So we actually released a physical NES cartridge. So it was a functional game.
So you would still release stuff for PS3 and all that, even though okay, I understand.
Yeah, as long as Sony's still allowing us to manufacture these discs, which they just shut down PS2 and PS1 manufacturing like a year and a half ago.
Right.
So they keep these lines open for a pretty long time, unless it's the Vita with some specialized media. But PlayStation 4, we're talking about Blu-rays. They're going to keep making those for foreseeable future, and then Ultra HD Blu-rays for PS5. So we've got some runway there. But like Douglas was saying, like Nintendo, they're gonna cling to physical media for a lot longer than everybody else, just because they don't necessarily follow the same trends.
Right.
And I just feel like they're going to be the only ones like maybe sensitive to the fact that like not everybody's going to have fiber internet or the best connection possible, and that kids especially might not have access to that. Like they're going to, I think, stick to some form of physical for at least the next like 2 generations, in my opinion. But
there are more companies now, including the publishers themselves, doing what you didn't pioneer it, but you made it cool and you made it popular. I imagine you're still the biggest dog in the fight. I don't know if that's accurate, but it seems accurate, at least from an outside observer. Is it getting harder because you can now go to a Sony website and they're doing their own Uncharted collection, or you can go to 2K and they're doing their own, or that really hasn't? The only suffering you guys have done is that maybe you can't get as many Sony properties, but there's plenty of stuff to go around, or is that affecting you guys?
I mean, I would say that the only component of it, like, and I'm not necessarily super worried about this, but some of our competitors are trying to make a push back into traditional retail as the main focus. And I feel like that's going to hurt developers. Like, we're going to start getting in another race to the bottom.
Oh, right. With all the manufacturing and shipping and all that shit.
Yeah, like customers are going to start expecting certain prices that they're going to say, well, your competitors can charge these prices, why can't you? And it might force us into a position where like we can't help developers anymore because they're starting to say like, oh, this other competitor is doing 400,000 copies to traditional retail, they're dropping the prices or whatever, but ultimately, because it's 400,000 copies at lower margins, they're making about the same amount as us, 40,000 copies or whatever, but consumers see it as a better deal.
Okay.
but in that case, developers are kind of getting, I think, the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
And that concerns me because this is kind of the first business model that's really working out for a lot of developers that and the partners that we work with in terms of physical. Like a lot of these people that we work with, like, have moved away from physical because it sucked.
Yeah.
Retailers take most of the money. And to see our competitors kind of push back into retail and, make that the focus, it's concerning because I feel like it's going to ultimately kind of hurt developers. It's gonna, I don't want to say taint this model, but like, I feel like it kind of will.
What publisher has said no to you guys? Has any publisher been like, go fuck yourself? I'm not in that way. Maybe if they've said go fuck yourselves, I want to know. But if they've ultimately metaphorically said go fuck yourselves and you're like, man, I really wanted that, what couldn't you guys get?
Twisted Metal Black.
You wanted Twisted Metal Black. You could not get black.
No.
Why? I know people. I'll make some calls. What do you want?
The person running Sony at the time didn't believe in it. So
didn't believe in it. What would they have to suffer? I mean, what would they have to provide? Don't you guys take on the burden?
Yeah, I mean, one of their reasons was they thought because we did Jack and Daxter as a charity thing, they didn't think Twisted Metal's like ESRB rating applied to that, which I was like, it was fair.
Too mature to be, a driver of charity benefits. And the overall revenue that we generated was significant, but not significant enough to, do for anything but charity was the response there regarding that. But I would say, the biggest publisher that we've had trouble with is Square Enix.
Okay.
We want to work with Square Enix because they have all of these, like, they are super digital now. Like, they've got so many games that are digital only. And, like, they have the most physical hungry audience. Like, RPG people tend to be like anime people, and they're the ones who are like, let me get, DVDs, VHS. Like, a lot of the people I know that watch anime, like, they're still watching laser discs and VHS or whatever. So, like, they're clinging to, like, physical media to a very high degree. And Square Enix is like, nah, we're all digital or whatever. And
but I guess what I don't understand though is, isn't it like, maybe it's not, but I mean, how involved do they need to be? Because isn't it like, you guys take on the financial risk, you guys do the work. Yeah. What does it matter to Square Enix, or what does it matter to Sony if you make a Twisted Metal Black? Who cares?
I think that a lot of the issue at some of these bigger companies is their internal sales teams. Their sales teams, they get worried that they're going to upset GameStop, or they're going to upset, Kohl's, which, we've heard before. Somebody was like, Kohl's wanted this game. It's like, Kohl's?
I never bought a game of Kohl's.
Get like $10 shirts? Like,
yeah.
That you're concerned about how Kohl's feels?
Right. Okay, fair. Okay. So there's other things at work that get in the way. Okay.
I think the other thing is brand perception. Like Square, one of the things that we think will never succeed at that is they literally do everything themselves. Like, they used to work with Dark Horse to do their books. They recently just opened their own publishing wing to do books.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very in-house. Like, everything's got to be done in-house, and I don't know if it's necessarily for quality purposes or if it's just like they just don't feel like they need to share any of the revenue, at all. Right. And I can't blame them for that mentality, but at the same time, like, if you're going to do that, like, at least like capitalize on the opportunities you have. Like, make your digital games physical. Like, you've got your own online store, for God's sake. Like, you don't even have to put these in retail. Like, you've got a place to sell it. Just like put it up there and sell it so fans have the choice. But we really want to work with them.
Okay, fair enough. What would be the dream game from them that you would want to put out? Final Fantasy 3?
So, if I could pick anything in their library, I would, try to convince them to do something with Chrono Trigger on modern platforms.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Pick any game.
Special the fuck edition out of that motherfucker. That would be amazing.
Yeah, big collector's edition, tricked out to the max. Like, that would be, dream.
I'm in the minority. I would pick Chrono Cross because I'm a huge fan of that soundtrack. But yeah. Same thing. Either Chrono would be good.
What about Tomb Raider? Do you think Tomb Raider would move units, like a special edition of the first Tomb Raider? I mean,
if it was the first game, and we really leaned into nostalgia with the collector's edition, like so like a statue with like a polygonal Lara Croft.
Yeah.
That would sell. I like undoubtedly, like that would be a huge thing. And the IDOS side, I think, is far more willing to work with external people than
are they still? There's a demarcation. I thought it was all Square Enix now.
It's all one umbrella, but I feel like they care far less about the IDOS IP.
Right.
That's why they did that whole Square Enix collective thing where they were like, hey, pitch your games or whatever, like make Fear Effect games. We don't even care. Like,
yeah, they even told us at one point if we wanted to set in like a pitch for Gex.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay, that's awesome.
You want to make a Gex game? Have fun or whatever.
Right.
Gex
okay.
Tactics.
If something was on PC only, you couldn't bring it to a console, right? Because it hasn't been approved by. So, like, if there was a really cool PC game, and you wanted to say we want to do a Vita or a PS4, you really couldn't do that, right? Because Sony hasn't.
We have our own, internal emulator. We've got a couple different things. So we've got an engineering staff on hand. So we've done several ports ourselves. So, we've taken games from other platforms and ported them onwards, for partners. Typically we're only, really able to do that just because of our limited staff with things that are built in like, Unreal or Unity or Game Maker, like, engines that we have experience in. If it's like custom rolled or whatever, it might be, a little bit out of our scope just because we don't have enough staff. But we've done ports. And then the other thing we're really focusing on right now is we built kind of an internal emulation engine. So it's a solution for our partners that have like large back catalogs, like a Konami, for example. Like we announced a Castlevania thing that's coming out with them soon. And they have this back library of retro titles that's like 300 titles deep. And we're developing a solution that will allow us to bring those games to modern platforms in like a week. We can go from start to submitting to platform holders in a week.
Okay.
And we did that for Way Forward with Shantae on Game Boy Color.
Right.
And it was massively successful.
Yeah,
like,
that's a series that different thing than you're talking about, but I'm always stunned that series hasn't become bigger. It's such a good fucking franchise. But okay, so you do that. Okay, I have one final question, and then I'm going to turn it over to the audience if that's okay with you guys, because I got some chats, I got some phone calls, and I asked you this at the beginning, and I don't know if I got an answer, and that's okay. It's none of my goddamn business, but I'm curious because you guys started in such different places. Are you happier doing this, Josh, than programming games?
I'd say I'm as happy. The thing that I'm not happy about is, I'm in that position where I'm running a business now, and like the running a business part is, the day-to-day like clerical tasks.
Yes.
Like I hate that stuff. Like that stuff's not what's fun for me. What's fun for me is like creating products and getting those in. Like I love that aspect of it. Same with game development. Like when I was having to do taxes or whatever, that sucked. But when I was designing a game or implementing a new feature or whatever, like that was what I loved. So I'd say like I love both things equally.
Okay.
But I hate the clerical stuff equally as well. And there's a lot more of it with limited run just because of, the level.
Right. There's so many more people involved, I imagine, or companies involved. Douglas, what about you? Music? Or you do it on the side, but you're real happy doing this?
Yeah, I don't miss being broke all the time and like,
Fair.
sleeping on the floor in random places, playing shows, and I don't miss all the band drama of like somebody didn't have enough money to pay for gas or rent, or somebody was like, I have a bigger ego than you. I don't miss any of that. I miss playing shows and I miss recording, but I feel like I can let the show thing go and I can record now on my own. And I really enjoy doing this because, most of the time, like if I couldn't afford the rent in the band, it's because I spent money on a video game. So now I get to like work directly with games and people that I grew up, admiring, and I'm definitely a lot happier. I would say, like,
that's good.
Way better quality of life going around. I don't, wonder where I'm going to sleep at night anymore.
Right.
Like the band days were rough, but they were fun in their own way. But now that I'm older and crankier, I don't think I could go back.
Well, the cool part is the older you get, at least I have found, because when I was doing my stuff in games, I wasn't aware of the stuff that we were making, how it affected people. And now that I've got fans for the games that we worked on that are older and they can tell me stories about how the games they played that we got to work on made them happy or brought them joy or gave them escape. I imagine it's very similar for you guys because you guys make products that speak to people's childhoods and their souls and their hearts. I imagine you guys get a lot, as much as your fans might be a nightmare at times. I can't imagine dealing with some of these high-strung people I've seen on the internet. But I imagine, though, you guys get a lot of love as well from people who really, your shit touches them, you know? I mean, is that an accurate read?
Yeah, we have people like always ask for our signatures, which is always kind of weird because we're like, we didn't technically make this game, but it's neat. Like, I think it was E3 or PSX. There was a guy walking around with a PlayStation 1, and he had gotten it signed by Kojima, who was there, and a whole bunch of other developers. And he came up to me, he's like, "You're Limited Run Doug, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You want to sign this?" And I was like, I looked down and saw the signatures, and I was like, "No," because like I feel like I'm tarnishing this.
Right.
And he was like, "No, you've done a lot of good for the industry. Like you know, do all these cool things, and it meant a lot to me."
Right.
And I was like, "All right, man, if you that's what you want," and that kind of stuff like really warms my heart and makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And like
and for every person that hates us on the internet, there's like 3 people that really appreciate what we're doing.
That's
and
cool.
we have some really great fans that you know, if we didn't have these fans, like, you know, I would probably, you know, lose faith in humanity, just because, you know, sometimes it's really hard to just drown out the people that are, you know,
I know.
sending
I know.
and telling you to go screw yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of fans. It's just, you know, I think like the negative stuff, like it sticks more. So it's like, I notice it far more, and it just it wears you down sometimes. But like the fans that we have that are positive and great, like it really it's inspiring, and it keeps us, you know, driven to do things and, you know, achieve more and get better games. So
cool. Yeah, a random plug here that we're excited about because conventions have been gone. Normally, Josh and I, whoever goes with us to E3, we do like a fan meetup if we could.
Okay.
But hopefully at the end of this fall, we're opening our own retail store in the area.
Really?
So now we have like a place where we can actually go and connect with our fans.
Where in North Carolina?
So it's in Cary, North Carolina. So it's, you know, right up from our office, just up one of the highways from our office.
And there's enough like of a audience for what you do. And because I was in my head, I'm going, oh, okay, LA, Chicago, New York, but in North Carolina, there's enough of a fan base to keep a store like that running. I mean, you'll see, right? Who knows?
So it's I see it as a destination shop, like the kind of thing.
Like
You're not going to go there all the time. Like you're going to go there maybe once a year or whatever. And people will drive from surrounding states to go. It almost doesn't matter where it is.
Right.
And if we do like big events, like our grand opening, like we're expecting people will probably fly in for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did a pop-up shop test in our local mall, which Epic just bought, and there was people that flew from the UK for it, drove down from like Massachusetts.
That's awesome.
However you pronounce that state.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic. That's exciting. Okay, where is my Dukes of Hazzard Race for Home version of I want that, please. Thank you. Okay, now I really do. That thing sold 1 million copies. It was amazing. Okay.
Was this the PS1?
It was a PS1 one. It was great. And then there was a game that came out last year that got lambasted by everyone, and it's one of the best, most fun games of last year, called Fast and Furious Crossroads. You guys will be making that in 10 years because people are going to warm up to it. They're going to go, Jaffe was right. That's a goddamn good game. Okay, I'm going to bring it. Go ahead.
Universal loves us. So, you know, Fast and Furious might, you know, it might be a match made in heaven right there.
Dude, that's a great fucking game. And I don't know, I guess Warner Brothers has the Dukes license, but I don't think that's your audience, I would imagine. But
wow. The game you brought up was made by South Peak. They were like literally down the street from my childhood home.
Well, maybe there's magic in the air, Joshua, because this is kismet is what this is.
They were in Danville?
What's that?
I was gonna say, Josh, they were in the Danville, like San Fran area.
No, they were in Cary. They were on the SAS campus. South Peak Interactive was a publisher that existed under SAS for some reason. Like, I don't know why, because SAS made database software. I don't,
That's wild.
All right, we got questions. Here they go. These are the text ones first, then I'm going to get to the phone calls. Eddie Torres of the Connecticut Torreses says, hey, please ask them if they've ever mentioned PT to Konami when working on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection.
So I could just tell a funny story about our first meeting with Konami. We met them at E3, right, Josh? It was E3 or GDC?
It was E3.
E3, okay. We go to the meeting, we have a great talk, we talk about how Konami's, really working to show gamers that, they are still a game company, and they're like, we really want to work with you, and everybody's having fun. And then right at the end, they go, that was really bold of you to wear that Kojima shirt. And I go, what? And I looked down and didn't realize I was wearing like a Kojima production shirt.
Okay.
And I just thought and they were like, nobody here cares. Like, it's all at this point, bridge under the water, or water under the bridge. But it was just kind of funny. But for a while, yeah, after that, I was like, I don't know if I should ever bring up PT with them, because like, what if they get mad again? And, but those are, yeah, it's definitely something we've brought up, but I don't have anything to say.
Okay, so you have brought it up, like, hey, can we make this physical? But they've never said anything, or they've said stuff, but you can't share.
Yeah, no comment.
Got it.
Josh,
yeah, no comment on PT. And the other issue with it is,
interesting.
For everybody that would be happy about it, there's also people who would be like, I can't believe they're charging for this thing that used to be free. And I could see that being a bad look for Konami, because people would be like, they're charging for something that was literally like a teaser or a demo or whatever. It would take a lot of messaging to like properly frame this physical release, so like mainstream people like understand that. Like,
mainstream people wouldn't give a fuck. You think mainstream people are going to the limited run website and buying the fucking?
I don't know.
Well, I think the lose-lose situation there is, even if they put it back up for free to download, people would just be like, oh, they're just going to take it away again. Like,
no, you guys would make a physical one though.
I know, but then
I'm down this Dukes of Hazzard rabbit hole now.
Yeah,
David, and we literally just hired like the licensing guy that used to handle licensing
for what?
At the company that would have the license for Dukes of Hazzard.
All I'm telling you, sir, is it sold over 1 million copies on PlayStation. Yes, you would want to basically fix the flag so it's not the Confederate flag on top of the General Lee. Other than that, you're good to go. Come on, man. You walk past the box, and it does the Bo and Luke yeehaw. Come on. Yes, I will take a seat on your board. You don't have to beg. I will help you guys out. All right, now, that's Eddie Torres. I'll ask these because they sent them in, but we know the answer. Jaffe, this is Upvote Bandit. Will you ask if they'll release a physical version of Drawn to Death? No, they won't, even if they wanted to, because there's so many hooks into the back end of Sony, I don't think it would be possible. Brandon says, I wish Limited Run could do a Twisted Metal 1 and 2 PC big box by some miracle. I assume the Twisted Metal 2 and 1 has a less chance of getting done with Sony than the Twisted Metal Black.
I would say never to say never on those.
Well, if I can help, let me know. I know some people,
yeah,
but
my personal goal is still to get 1, 2, and Blackout. Maybe 3 and 4 to finish it, but like I don't. I think most Twisted Metal fans are 1, 2, and Black are the best.
Is there value in you guys doing Criterion-like stuff? Like if you were to say, I'm not the name I once was, but it's just I know this stuff. It's like here are the games that, we were talking earlier. These are games that Jaffe tested or, as he was coming up, or here's Kojima's very first game he ever made, which is a total obscure thing that no one knows about. I mean, how much of the historical value could go into what you guys do? Or it's like, yeah, that's not really our audience. They don't care about that.
No, we've definitely been pushing for that. Like Jack and Daxter, we had the design Bibles in them.
Yeah.
We hired Jeremy Parrish recently, and he's very good at that.
Why do I know that name? Who is that?
He's from Retronauts.
Oh, so he hates me. I think he hates me.
Oh,
because because he used to be at IGN, right?
He did. Sometimes he gets so his other person on Retronauts is Bob Mackey.
Bob Mackey hates me. Bob Mackey hates me.
Bob Mackey seems to have a lot of enemies. Jeremy does not seem to have a lot of enemies.
Right, because
he's not as outspoken,
Yes, it was Mackey. It was Mackey. Fuck that.
Yeah,
guy.
I don't. So Jeremy Parrish was at 1UP.
Yeah, that's right. That's how I know him. Okay. All right, let me bring in some of these chats real quick. These guys want to know from you good people. Christopher Gorley says, I order from Limited Run all the time, and almost all of my PS4 games in a bubble mailer have loose discs. Is there any solution that you're working on for this?
He could do it on the camera. I just did it recently. We got our Terminator games in, and I immediately was able to pop it out with like no effort. It's not something not on us.
It's not on you. Okay.
I got a PS4 game here. Disc is not loose. Watch. Minimal pressure. Disc is loose now.
So just the nature of handling them via UPS is what does it. It's not you guys.
And it could be, something as simple as even in a box, void fill could put a moderate amount of pressure on the front of the case, and the disc flies out. And it's you'll notice, like, this isn't published by us. This is a PS4 case flaw. You can do this through.
The Best Buy protectors. Yeah.
Is the solve just by digital then, right? There's no problem. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I am going to bring in. Have you guys? I'm just going to email you games you should do, and you'll be like, Jaffe, stop emailing us. There's this great game called Devoted that came out from Red Candle Games. It was banned everywhere because of the China thing, and Red Candle finally put it out and on their own website. That's the only way they could sell it. Steam wouldn't carry it. Good Old Games wouldn't carry it. I don't even know if the console people will bring it to console. So I guess you couldn't do it, but it is one of the best horror games I've ever played. It's like a 4-hour first-person game, and it's phenomenal, and I would love more people to know about it. But yeah, I guess if Sony's not going to carry it in general, they're not going to let you guys do a run for it, right? That's how it works? You still have to go through their process.
That's one thing, and the other thing is, like, I reached out to them because I saw all that stuff, and we were very interested in, like, whatever format we could preserve it in, it would be great.
In Devotion?
Yeah. And at the time, they were just like, we're dealing with too much right now to even consider this because we're just trying to get the game out, period. So
have you played it?
I haven't had a chance. It's literally on my to-do list.
If you like horror, it's great, man.
Yeah.
I saw you guys. Didn't you guys do Layers of Fear?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We did Outlast.
Okay, Layers of Fear for a while was one of my favorite horror games, and it's still good, but this comes along, smoked the fuck out of Layers of Fear. It's really creepy and good. Okay, I'm going to bring in Jimmy Gilchrist. He wants to talk to you fine folks. Jimmy Gilchrist, you are on with the fine fellows from Limited Run Games in North Carolina. Can you hear him? I don't know.
Yes, Dave.
You cannot hear him. Okay, you guys. How do we do this, Rob? Let me get this set up for you guys. Oh, you're not in the Discord. God damn it, Jaffe, you moron. I'm gonna relay his question to you just because it's getting on in the day. Okay, Jimmy, tell me. Keep it simple so I can ask these guys. I'm sorry about that, guys. I didn't even think about setting that up. Go, Jim.
Okay, you and all these guys are into artwork and figurines. Have you ever thought about getting into NFTs?
Okay.
Having your own auction house.
Okay, he's saying all of the guys that you guys are like into figurines and all the collectibles and stuff, has NFTs become something of your, like, hey, maybe we could go down that role and still do collectibles and still do valuables, but stay in the digital realm or go into the digital realm?
So it's weird. Like, we got like 10 people emailing us to do NFTs last week, but our stance on it is just like, the market's too weird right now. Like, it's not at a point where I feel like it's settled and it's like where it like is sustainable yet.
Dave.
Like, we don't want to just jump in on something that's like hot, like if we do something, like, we want to fully understand it. We want to make sure that it like supports the pillars that, we've supported with the rest of our company. So at the current point in time, like, it's not something we're looking at, like, we're going to get into. Like, I feel like, right now there's too many people putting things out, and it's just like, how much of that stuff's actually going to like be worth any money or valuable down the road? It's like it remains to be seen.
And there's also the whole environmental stuff that's starting to come out
Yeah.
about how damaging it is to the environment. So, Jimmy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, well, there are some cryptocurrencies that are environmentally friendly.
Right,
Like
but
this
yeah,
XRP coming up.
yeah, but they're saying it's not even the environment thing is the main thing at the moment. They're saying that it's just too speculative of a market to sort of, throw their hat in the ring right now. All right, Jimmy, thank you, buddy. Thanks for waiting. I appreciate it, man.
All right.
All right, I'm going to bring in, I don't know how to say this guy's name, the three somebody. What's up, pal? Thank you for waiting. You are on with the good sirs. I will relate the conversation to them. What do you want to ask them? The 3G&A. Are you there? Yeah, go.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what's up?
Am I loud?
No, you're perfect. Go.
Okay,
sorry,
great.
guys.
No, you're fine.
But first of all, thank you for the service you're doing, Mr. Dog and G. I don't know the name.
Joshua,
Damn it.
he says, first off, thank you for the
Josh.
service you guys provide. He's a fan. That's number one. Okay.
Yes, and two, I want to ask, is there any chance the Sega Astro City Mini is going to get a second wave of releases for also Europe besides America?
Okay, say the name of the game one more time.
It's not a game, it's a mini console. It's called the
okay.
Astro City Mini.
But these guys, okay, he wants to know, he's a fan, he wants to know, is there any chance, I'm not sure why he's asking you this unless you guys were involved, is there any chance the Sega Astro kind of mini console is going to get us...
City Mini.
Astro what?
So we distributed the Astro City Mini.
Oh, City Mini. Okay. Okay. There you go. That makes sense. I'm sorry, fellas. So he said, is that going to get another wave either in Europe or the US, or is it kind of done?
So we may be able to get some more units. It's not a ton. I think like we're basically using up what's left in their warehouse, but it's like 500 to 1,000 units. So we're getting some more, but with global shipping as screwed up as it is right now, it's going to take a while for them to get to us.
Okay. So does that answer your question? I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for waiting.
I didn't hear the response.
He says they've got about 500 of them that could be coming to them, but shipping globally, given the state of the world right now, may be a problem, and it's going to take a long time. So I guess the answer, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, is it's TBD how effective getting these back out into the channel is going to be.
It's going to be a bit of time, but like I wouldn't say like don't turn to the reseller market right now. Like don't feel like you have to go on
eventually
eBay, buy one above cost.
Okay, yeah, he says don't turn to the resale market necessarily right now. You might be able to get one at a normal price. Thank you for the call, buddy. I'm sorry I couldn't connect you guys live. Totally my bad. I apologize. All right, let me bring in Torchwood. That's a show with the girl who now is Sharon Carter on. You guys watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that show on the television station? What do you like?
I'm more excited for Loki. I think Loki's going to be.
Loki looks cool. You didn't like, but you're not fans of the Winter Soldier show.
I like it. I think it's good, but it just kind of feels. Sometimes the episodes feel a little too long. Like it feels like the pacing, like it's inconsistent.
Gotcha. Okay, Torchwood, you're on. What's up, man?
Hey, thanks for finally letting me in. I've been slacking at my job for no. I've loved listening.
No.
So funny,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Your free entertainment is not more to your liking.
No, I was going to say.
Thanks for finally letting me on. I didn't know, sir. I'm sorry.
No, David, you can't do that. No joke. Douglas thinks I hate him already for 2 years going, and I can't keep it going.
He says Douglas thinks I hate him already for 2 years going. Does he know you? Does he know who you are?
We've met a couple of times. We met at cons and stuff for it. But
he doesn't know who you are. What would your name be? Who would I tell him you are?
I'm Spencer.
His name is Spencer. He's met you guys a couple of times, and he thinks you hate him.
We know Spencer. I don't think any of us
No, we don't hate them.
He says they know you. There's only one person at the company that hates you. That's a lie. That's a lie. But he says no, nobody hates you. They know you. So what do you want to ask these guys?
Great. Oh, okay. Well, I did just want to clarify really quick. No, I was saying thanks for actually. I was worried I wouldn't be able to stay on a bit.
I'm just fucking with you. Come on, baby. I'm fucking with you. Go ask these guys a question.
So mine might be a little weird.
They have the Indiana Jones license they have to announce pretty soon. Come on, get to it. Was that it, Josh?
Yeah,
was it Indiana Jones?
That one's not controversial.
So this one may be a little weird to convey.
You guys have Lollipop Chainsaw. Please tell me that game's coming back. I've never played the goddamn thing. Please put that out.
I would love that.
I love
number one Suda fan.
Where in the world is that game, you guys? Why don't you do that?
It's still 2 generations ago. I don't know. I'll have to ask if they're ever going to port it back out.
Come on now. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Spencer.
No, you're good, man. So yeah, the question may be a little bit weird, so I'm going to try and convey it as easy for you to tell them.
Okay, yep.
So basically, their final Vita release that's going to go on sale normally is eventually coming up, called Super Meat Boy.
Okay, hang on a second.
Now,
let me go one at a. Okay, your final Vita release that's coming up is going to be Super Meat Boy. Okay, keep going, Spencer.
And one of the big things, they've had the game in hand since like 2019, but they've been holding off on it for Super Meat Boy Forever. Which is only going to be out on PS4 and Switch, like through them physically. Okay. And they wanted to sell both at the same time. I was curious.
Just so I'm clear, you're saying Limited Run Games is holding off on that because they want to include Super Meat Boy Forever into a single package, right? That's what you're asking?
No. It's actually, they're going to sell 2 separate packages, but they wanted to sell the first and Forever at the same time.
Limited Run Games is going to sell 2 different packages. They want to sell the first one, and then they want to sell Forever, right?
Yeah, but they want to put them on sale at the same time.
They want to put them on sale at the same time. What's your question?
So my question was if they could kind of elaborate maybe how like that whole process started, because it was a whole sort of thing of getting it to happen, and I was always sort of curious why they wanted to hold off on selling the Vita one when Super Meat Boy Forever is not coming to that system, and for so long
wait, hang on, wait. You got to mute yourself though, because I can hear him now. You're listening, which is good. But he's not you, Doug.
Okay, I was gonna be
are you guys listening to the stream?
No.
Why am I hearing an echo then? Okay, anyway, he wants to know about there's a kid in the shot. Get the kid in the shot. Where is she? Come on now. Where's the kid? Hi, buddy. How you doing? Oh, I missed that age. My kids are like 17 and 15 now, which are great, but that little age is great. Sorry, Spencer's like, what the fuck am I, chopped liver? He wants to know... Oh,
this is great, man. Don't worry about it. I'm small time.
He wants to know the process. Why... You want to know what? Why are they doing it that way? Why don't you just...
No, I knew they wanted to hold off so they could release both at the same time. They've got like a plan with the collector's edition and stuff. Like, they've had it squared away forever.
Spencer, get to your question. These men have busy lives. What do you want to ask them?
The question was basically, did they ever kind of why they never really wanted to just kind of release the Vita ones and get it out of the way, or like are they kind of glad they waited now that Super Meat Boy is out kind of forever, and no offense to the game, sort of had a much more lackluster release after all the years of anticipation and stuff. So basically, are they glad they've stuck with the plan to wait for Forever to finally be done, or if there's anything they could do to change, what would they change?
Oh my God, you're high maintenance, Spencer. Okay, look, they don't hate you, but I do. Call back anytime, Spencer. I'm kidding. Okay, here's what he's asking.
Thanks, man. I love you.
Of course, I'm just fucking with you, buddy. Here's what he's asking. He says, look, I guess there was a rigmarole around Super Meat Boy and Super Meat Boy Forever. That's going to be one of your last Vita games, if not the last Vita game. He wants to know, are you glad you waited on the first Super Meat Boy release? Because I guess you're going to release Forever and Super at the same time as different products. I don't really understand. Maybe you guys have some context to why that question is important.
So yeah, a lot of Vita fans are just because of how scarce the last games have been and how stressful they've been to get. A lot of Vita fans, I think, are ready to just be done with us. Like they don't want to worry about limited run anymore, but they want to get this final game. So they are anxious for us to release Super Meat Boy, which is our final game. You know, we've had this game in hand for 2 years now, but this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, where we don't really necessarily want to overwhelm people with releases.
Right.
We have had this desire to pair Super Meat Boy with Super Meat Boy Forever, the sequel, and to sell them on the same day. So, you know, when people who want Super Meat Boy can go to the website and, you know, buy everything Super Meat Boy in one go, and, you know, it's just easy, low stress to get the game series that they like. And the Vita release will share a collector's edition with the PlayStation 4 and Switch edition. And in order to get the right levels of manufacturing costs on those, they have to be run at the same time. But we don't know yet how many copies we need to do of this collector's edition on PS4 and Switch. And we're not going to be able to sell the PS4 version until we have a PS4 version of Super Meat Boy Forever, which doesn't exist yet. It's not out yet. So, you know, we're waiting on that to be out before we can finally say, like, this is when Super Meat Boy and Super Meat Boy Forever are going to come out. But there's this conspiracy theory that we're just arbitrarily sitting on the game to have the last PlayStation Vita release, and it's like, it doesn't bring anything to us. There's no point to doing that. Like,
would there be value if your customers knew, like if I'm not saying do this, I'm just asking if you could somehow take the data you have about how there is no conspiracy, because it seems like you guys deal with that a lot. The customers just not getting the truth. Would it matter? Like, would it be worth the effort for limited run games to go, you know what, let's put out a fun little not flash anymore, but let's put out a fun thing on our website just so it's like, oh, it's real simple to understand? Or is it like, it doesn't matter? Like, that's just part of the business? Because it seems like it's exhausting having to explain this shit all the time.
You're describing exactly what we're working on right now. So we're kind of working on a video that's kind of an explainer on all of the misconceptions about our model and our process that will be, you know, very short, like 3 to 5 minute videos. So like, it's not going to be a chore for someone to watch it. Like, they'll see how the full process plays out and like understand a lot of these things that people are upset with or angry about. So, that is something we're actively working on. So,
all right.
You know, you're on track.
Spencer, thank you, buddy. I appreciate the call, man. I'm sorry that, you know, you're Spencer. Bye, buddy. I love you. You know I'm fucking with you, bud. Thanks for waiting, man.
No worries. Thanks, man.
Spencer, hey, are we good?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Just in case, I'm like
Spencer,
literally leaving work.
Me and Spencer are still good guys.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, we're still good.
We're all good.
The limited run guys were worried. We're good. You don't like them, though. All right, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. All right, this is Ricardo Estevez, a pro journalist from down under. Go, buddy. What's up, man?
Oh, dope.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you great. What do you want to ask these fine folks?
Hey, what's up? So a few questions. First, will they ever branch out to like movies, comics, etc.?
In terms of originals or reprints?
Reprints.
Will you guys ever branch out to movies, comics, things like that? Like reprints and stuff?
Yeah, so the movies, you know, that's something like what Douglas was talking about. You know, VHS is something that we think there'd be an honest market for. But beyond that, there's also, you know, a lot of out-of-print movies that are just impossible to get. And some of them are things that we're interested in. There are TV shows that are hard to find and things like that. So I think it's a thing that's kind of, you know, adjacent to what we do. And it would make sense as a potential expansion for us at some point.
The hurdle is just that it's a whole nother arena with things that we have to learn, like what's the correct aspect ratios and what's the quality of audio that their customers are looking for, like what DVD bonus features do we need to include and all that stuff.
So wait, you want to do basically a collector's edition of all the movies from all the Twisted Metal games with commentary? Oh, yeah, okay, I'm fine. That's fine. Okay, Ricardo, what's your next question? Real quick. Sorry, buddy, I hate to rush you. The problem is they can't hear you, so they're just sitting in silence.
Yeah, sure. Blizzard games.
Blizzard games. Okay.
If they will do any.
Well, you guys really do Blizzard games.
Go for it.
So we're really hoping that we might be able to get an opportunity to do the arcade collection that they just launched on
like Lost Vikings and all that stuff.
Lost Vikings, Radical,
Rock and Roll Racing,
and then Blackthorn.
Oh
Warcraft.
my god, that'd be amazing. What would you do? Well, because there's no physical of that right now. It's just digital.
Yeah, it's just digital.
Would that be one that would get a collector's edition, you think, or you don't think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, my art director is like a huge Blizzard nerd. You know, he's a huge fan. Like, he's got everything that they've ever done, and you know, Blizzard has this very nice series of World of Warcraft collector's editions that are just super lush and high quality, and they actually fit on the shelf next to the Diablo 3 collector's edition. Like, they're the same like size format. So we kind of feel like if we got to do something for that, we could continue that onward and, you know, have a collector's edition that fits in with those other Blizzard collector's editions.
Did Blizzard make those themselves?
Yeah, so those were started when, you know, Blizzard was still independent. So the first World of Warcraft one came out before the Activision Blizzard merger.
Got it. Okay. Ricardo, is that the last question?
One more, and that's it.
Okay.
Will they ever consider release the packages without the games?
Okay. Thanks, Ricardo. I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you, sir. Thank you, man.
Bye, man.
All right.
Did anybody call you just to say they love you?
Not right now. Not yet.
Oh.
Sometimes, yes, but not today. You know, he wanted to know, his last question is, and I think you already do this. He says, will you guys ever consider releasing just the packages without the games? I mean, you guys do just sell boxes, right? I mean, I've seen that on your website.
Yeah, we do for Switch.
We do that for our Best Buy Switch stuff. So we always have unique cover at Best Buy for our Switch games that are sold there. And to make it easier for people that want to have all the different covers, they can just kind of buy a case and a cover sheet together.
Okay.
But we typically don't want to sell, you know, the big packages without the game inside, just because that kind of usually falls under another agreement, especially with big companies. It's like, you know, if we're not bundling it with the game, like, it becomes a consumer product or whatever.
Right.
And,
Okay.
you know, different people and different companies handle these things, and it gets kind of complicated.
I grew up, and you guys are Dreamcast kids, so you guys didn't really get the benefit of how amazing manuals were. There were still manuals at the time, but it wasn't like Atari and NES.
High school.
Dreamcast was later in our life.
Oh,
that's our favorite.
What'd you come up with? NES?
NES and SNES, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you remember at least that how wonderful it used to be to crack open a game and this beautiful manuals and meaty fucking things. Do you guys ever? I mean, I guess you do that with the special editions, but I mean, I would love to have some of these games that should have had a fucking great manual that could get a reprint, and it's like, oh, Uncharted 2, not a problem, but here's a fucking meaty goddamn manual in there.
So we for Toe Jam and Earl, the new version that came out back in the groove.
Right.
We actually did a 108-page manual with that. You know, there's 108 pages crammed into the Switch case.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Every single Switch game we do comes with a manual.
Okay.
So that's
even if the original game didn't ship with one.
Yeah. So we you know, put together manuals, and you know, they're varying degrees of complex. So like, we can't give every single game like a, you know, 100-page manual or whatever, but we try our best to make something interesting and cool that people can thumb through for each game. And like, we try our hardest to make those manuals something that's like, you know, a little bit more than just like, hey, here's how you control the game.
Right.
Like, you know, we try to put some other stuff in there, some like story, some character background. And sometimes we try to include like, you know, retrospectives on like why the game's so great and things like that.
That's so great. You guys do that. That is so. I had no idea. Somebody says you don't do it for PAL though. I'm assuming it's a shipping issue. The European versions.
Well, I mean, we like, all of our a are ESRB rated, so you know, everything that we put out will have a manual in it.
Okay. Couple more calls. You guys got the energy? You okay?
Sure.
So I might need to come wrap up after this, but Douglas is probably still good to stay on.
Okay, I think we have 3 more questions. Do with that what you can. I appreciate the time you've given us. This guy says, I forgot to ask, what was the most rare Sega Dreamcast game you have? Like, you mean as...
So I have,
yeah. Oh my God, she's back. Let me tell you something, kid. Do you know what your father does? Come back. Come back. I got to tell you about your dad. Your dad makes so many gamers happy. Are you aware that your dad and his partner bring joy to people's hearts? She don't care. She's like, where's my food, Daddy? I want to go to Cracker Barrel tonight, and then I want to go to the fishing hole. Okay, Dreamcast. Sorry.
Yeah, so I've got a full Dreamcast set. So I've got every game released, in the entire world, which is kind of a, probably a little sick when you think about it. But, I've got 600 Japanese games that I can't even, understand. They're mostly visual novels and dating sims that, I have no idea what's happening in them. But I love the Dreamcast so much. It just became this like sickness. Like I had to have every game released for it. I would say the rarest game that I have for Dreamcast is there's this set of visual novels on Dreamcast. There's 6 of them that only came out in Japan, and I can't really play these games because they're visual novels in Japanese, but you could only get the subsequent entry by beating the one before that. So like they were like,
okay, yeah.
I think it's called like Birdcage or something is what it translates to, but there's 6 of these. So they become progressively more difficult to get because so few people managed to beat the previous 5 ones to get the 6th one.
Oh, wait, you actually had to beat one to even acquire the second one?
Yeah,
How did you prove it?
I have no idea. So I haven't read any like sophisticated articles on this or whatever, but I have this feeling that maybe there was some kind of like order information at the end.
And you have all 6.
Yeah, so I managed to get all 6 of them. I found somebody selling a set, but I had to spend quite a bit to get that, and it worked out that like for a year and a half, PayPal had been sitting on all this money in my account, and they were finally like, yeah, you can finally have this money, and I was like, I don't know what to do with it, so I'll buy these really rare games that I can't play.
What can you say how much you spent?
Probably like $1,500, I think, to get all 6.
Dude, do you know, I was stunned. I have a guy who buys Twisted Metal stuff for me, and I don't sell my stuff, but I'm not like, I have it, and I'm just like, he reached out to me, and he says, hey, do you know where I could get the Japanese Twisted Metal 1 for PC? I'm like, I don't know, I got a bunch of them in boxes I've never opened. You want one? And he's like, yeah, I'll buy it. I'm like, you'll buy it? He's like, yeah, and I think he paid me like $1,500 on PayPal. I'm like, for that? Okay, you want some more shit that I got in the closet? And he's like, yeah.
Do you follow any of the stuff that's happening with like heritage auctions?
I know who that is, but I don't know. Not enough. No.
A sealed long box Twisted Metal just sold for $24,000.
You're shitting me. $24,000.
$4,000.
I could sell my shit and hire a producer for this show who knows how to bring the goddamn calls in so people can hear them. That's amazing. 24,000. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. What about you, Douglas? What's your most prized collectible in Dreamcast land?
I don't really know. I'm trying to think like what's the most I've paid recently for something on that, because I'm only like 20 away from a full North American set.
Wow.
I know there's some that I spent a lot of money on twice because I didn't check to see that I already bought it, and that made me mad. Like I recently just bought Donald Duck Going Quackers twice, so that was annoying.
That's on Dreamcast?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Fat Boo. Fat Boo, go. You're on with the fine gentleman from North Carolina.
Lovely. All right, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're always welcome. I'm going to be a bit of a dick today and say, get your question fast because I have to relay it to
I got you.
Yeah.
I'll make my question nice and long to see your expression. I'm just kidding. So anyway, my question
right,
is, I know. My question is, in today's society, in today's industry, I love hearing everything that they're talking about with like how they have to.
Nobody cares. Get to your question.
I care. I know you care too.
I care, but
you care.
Yeah, it's irrelevant to this point.
So pretty much, what level of transparency do you think is necessary for them to
My,
like really open up? Because all this stream, it's great for everyone to know what the real
daughter and
deal is,
wife are
but I feel like
anxious
it's
for
not
me to wrap
enough.
up, so
You know, so I'm like, my
am
question
going
is,
to-
one sec, Fat Boo.
Yeah.
All right, Josh has got to go. Joshua, and you're going to stay for a few more minutes, Doug?
Sure.
Josh,
Yeah,
thank you so goddamn much for sharing a little bit of all what you do and coming on and talking. I appreciate it, man. And please, for the love of God, give me one scoop that I can use to shove Jason Schreier's face in the dog poo. Give me one goddamn limited run scoop. Give me something. Give me something. Throw me a crumb. A fellow Southern boy. Come on now.
I don't think I have a scoop. I'm gonna leave Douglas, to figure out what he can.
Nice.
Tease you know.
Nice. All right.
I'll leave that out. But I sent you a link to that sealed Twisted Metal, so you can check that out after this.
Insane. All right, man. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later. Thanks,
Later,
Josh.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
So, okay, Fat Boo, you are on with Douglas of the,
Awesome.
Okay, go Fat Boo.
So
What's your
pretty
question?
much, it's like it's information is key, transparency is key. You gotta let
Information is
everyone
key.
know.
Transparency is key.
Radio
Okay.
silence is not like the way to go today.
Radio
today's world.
silence
So
with
what
your
will-
customers is not the way to go these days. Okay.
what will it take for people to understand, like, the pricing is legit because, like, developers need the money.
Got it,
You
got it,
gotta
got
make
it.
a profit. So
Okay.
that's my question.
All right,
Thanks a lot,
Fat
man.
Boo, thank you, buddy. Call back anytime. I apologize for rushing you off. I think you guys have already answered this. He's saying in this day and age, the internet and everything, transparency is important with customers, all that. What would it take, do you think, for the customer to understand that you guys aren't fucking them? This is just the cost of doing business. But it sounds like you guys are already doing that with these videos that are coming out soon.
Yeah, so we have that. I think that'll address the main issue. I think the other thing is it's kind of a double-edged sword. I feel like limited run of all the other publishers that we ever grew up being a fan of, and other people in this space, we are probably the most transparent. There's not a lot of publishers that are on Twitter, the people running the company, like Josh and I, that are easy to talk to. I will literally answer most of the DMs I get. I will answer all the people that at me if I can. I interact as much as I can. I go on YouTube and answer comments on videos if people are misunderstanding. I'm active in our own Discord. We're as transparent as we can be. I mean, there's some things that if there's a lack of transparency, it's just because for us we didn't understand that maybe it was something that other people cared more about knowing. It's not like we were trying to hide it. It's just oh shit, people might want to have heard about this, and I didn't even think it was that important at the time.
Right. Okay.
So we have an expanded marketing team now, and they're really working on fixing that and trying to answer more questions to people. And then I think, like I said, that video is going to help. We're going to give out more production emails on where things are at, and we're just going to get that message more spread out and just trying to fix that. But
okay,
I believe in the transparency.
Yeah, I think so too. Somebody just paid some ducats to ask about Game Pass. What do you guys think of Game Pass?
So it's funny, you brought up earlier about how when you're playing a digital game or an older game, you'll play it for 5 to 10 minutes and then switch to another.
Yeah, not a digital game, an older game.
Well, I'm having that issue with Game Pass. I bought a PS5 and a Series X, and I like them both, but
me too.
Game Pass gives you so much stuff that it's almost kind of like the same issue I have on Spotify, where I'm conflicted on what to listen to or play because there's so many options now, and I'm it's way different than when I was younger and I could barely afford games. I would just have this game that I bought, I'm committed to playing it regardless if it's good or bad.
Right.
I think Game Pass is a great thing for people. I just wish that Xbox on their own would be more physical friendly. We're hopefully doing our first Xbox title later this year.
Which one? Come on, man.
It's a first party title, I can tell you that.
Okay.
So that's actually pretty cool.
Fusion Frenzy.
I would do that. Fusion Frenzy was cool. I feel like I brought that up. Somebody else said no, we wouldn't, and I was like, what?
Okay.
But yeah, it's Grabbed by the Ghoulies. No, we're
right. Is it really?
No.
I was gonna say.
I think Game Pass is cool. It's a weird thing to ask us, I guess, just because it's digital. But I wish Sony would kind of embrace a similar mentality.
Yeah. Well, I think you mean in terms of Game Pass, something like that.
Yeah, I feel like if they really want, Xbox is getting very aggressive, and I feel like every generation it flips on who's doing better. Yeah. And I feel like Sony's made a couple mistakes PS5 already.
I love my PS5, but I don't disagree with you. I think that's an accurate read, or at least that's similar to mine. What's interesting you're saying about Game Pass, and when you merge Game Pass with Quick Resume, it really changes the way I consume games, and it's not a bad thing. It's just really an interesting headspace to be in, where like I'm playing a racing game like Dirt 5, and I will, come in second. And in the past, I would have just been like, I'm going to go again. I'm going to go again. I'm going to go again, right? Now I'll go again once or twice, and then I'm like, I'm going to flip over and play Indiana Jones, The Emperor's Tomb from like 2000, and I'll play that for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll get to kind of like a point where I disengage, and then I'll play a little bit of Doom Eternal, and then I'll go back to the racing game. And it feels like a very different cadence. Do you do that as well? Do you have,
I have game ADD. Especially when it's digital, it's easier to switch, and that quick resume makes it worse. Last night I played all 3 Fables at once.
But is that bad, or do you enjoy that? Like, I'm not complaining about that. I think it's just a really neat difference.
I think it's only bad in the sense that, like, ideally I would have loved to have been able to play more of one of them before I said, I'm just going to go ahead and try the next one. But I think the reality is that I don't have time to really play all the games that I want to anyway. So, like,
but are you jumping between games? It sounds like with the Fable story, you were doing 1 and then you were done with it. Now 2, then you're done with it. But are you able to go like Fable, then Halo, then Gears, then a small indie game, all within the course of one gaming session? Or you don't have that experience?
No, I definitely do that. The Fable. So I was playing like literally all the Halos at once. I was playing like I'd play a level of Halo 1, then I was like, all right, I'm gonna beat a level of Reach, and then I would jump into Halo ODST, and then like literally after that, I was like, now I'm gonna play Fable 1, and then the cycle kept going.
So do you like that? I guess is my question.
I like that I have the ability. I don't necessarily like that I feel like my attention's bad when I'm doing that. Like it's more of like a personal embarrassment. Like I personally like that I can do it.
Right.
But I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing.
Okay, fair enough. Hang on, let me get to the super chat. Eddie Torres says, I love you guys. Have you ever mentioned... I already asked that. He's the guy who asked, motherfucker, who you dealing with? I sent out a tweet and I says, hey, what questions do you got for these fine gentle folk? And you said, what about PT and Konami? You didn't have to pay for that. I did it for free. Aww. I did it for free. But thank you for your ducats, Eddie Torres. I'll send you a link. Since you paid, I'll send you a timestamp of when they answer that question. But they have had a conversation with Konami. They have talked to Konami about PT. They will not tell us how the conversation went. Douglas was wearing a I Love Kojima t-shirt. Didn't say I love Kojima, but it was clearly supporting their boy. And they're like, you're brave, motherfucker, to wear that t-shirt around these parts, sir. But he won't tell us what the PT conversation was. Okay, let me bring in the last 2 callers of the day. This is Slayer Christ. I don't fucking know how to say it, but how are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on? Guys, hey. I love the limited run stuff. I love this interview, too.
This guy loves you guys. He loves what you do. Okay, thank you, sir. I'll tell him. He gives you a heart.
I finally had got my Panzer Dragoon Switch Pearl case from Sega Saturn.
You got it from Limited Run. He got your Run. Panzer Limited Run Sega case. You're happy with it?
And so, yeah, I'm loving it. So I want to know, are they going to do more Sega games? Because Sega games are, the further we get out into the next couple of generations, that's going to be a lost legacy.
Okay.
And so what are you guys doing for that segment of the gaming era that's going to be gone?
All right. Thanks, man. I hate I have to disconnect you, but I appreciate I'll relay the question to Doug. Thank you, sir.
Cool.
He says he loves Panzer. He loves the Sega stuff. Are you guys going to do more Sega stuff? Because his concern is, as we get further and further into the next generations, that legacy, whether you're talking Sonic or Crazy Taxi or Virtual On or whatever, that gets harder and harder to find for gamers. Is that a relationship that is good with you guys and you want to keep doing Sega, or Panzer was kind of a one-off?
So all the Sega stuff we've done, well, first little tidbit is the Panzer case he's talking about is we put the game in a Sega CD case, basically like a Sega Saturn case. Yeah. This was a project of Josh's where he was mad that all of his were cracked, so he actually paid a lot of money to have them reproduced, and we made new cases. so that he could replace
Was it
all his
new?
cracked
Was it
ones.
new art, or it was just new cases of the original case?
Yeah, it was new of these acrylic long box cases. He made these, and then we would put new art in it.
Right, I got it.
For Panzer, it was the new key art. But yeah, all the Sega stuff we've done technically has been third party. Like they're really big about licensing their properties, like Streets of Rage 4, Panzer, Windjammers, all this stuff. Or not, Windjammers doesn't count. That's a different thing. But yeah, they're really big on licensing all their old properties. And we haven't actually been able to work with Sega proper. The closest we've been able to is when we did the Shenmue 3 Collector's Edition. We licensed the Dreamcast logo to put on a Dreamcast case. So it is our goal to hopefully do more Sega stuff. We're trying to work on some stuff internally that we want to pitch to them.
Okay.
But I totally feel this guy. Like, I really want, I want to see Virtual On come back out, Nights, a bunch of the old Sonic stuff.
Nights, the Christmas Nights was the shit.
Yeah.
Man. That I play that in my car still every goddamn year at Christmas time. I love Nights into Dreams, the Christmas edition. So last question that I have, and we're done with. Thank you guys for the callers. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging in there with me today. With the technical difficulties as always. When you do all of your art, that's not reprints, like new special editions and whatnot, do you work with a stable of freelancers? Do you have an in-house art department? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a mix of both. We'll take kind of existing key art, and our art team will try to like spruce it up the best they can, and then if it's something we feel like they handed in key art and we're like, this doesn't really lend itself well to a case, we have like you said, a stable of freelancers we use that have done posters for like Mondo and other places, so they're very well-known artists that are approved by a lot of our partners.
I got a guy who is a great friend of the chat. I don't know if you can see that Cabbage Patch Kid sweet tooth behind me there. But he's like, can you send these guys a link to my shit? And I'm going to ask you, is it cool after this if I just send you a link to his site? Okay. He's great. He has a whole stable of Cabbage Patch Kids done via video game characters. They're really great. Okay, fellas, I think we did it. We goddamn did it. Douglas, do you have anything to say besides talk about Cliffhanger? When you brought your Cliffhangers to the show today, like, do you have affection for those games, or are they so bad they're good? Like, what's your relationship? Because you have like multiple copies of this fucking thing.
It's kind of a mix of both. I feel like it was a weird, morbid curiosity about like why these were a thing and why it was on so many platforms. And then it became a joke with me and Josh, because Josh would be like, oh, what do you want for like your birthday or Christmas? Like, what's a rare game you want? And I would just say Cliffhanger, and he'd be like, that's not rare.
I was gonna say, is that a rare game? I didn't know it was a rare thing.
Only on, like we said, the
Game Boy, yeah,
the complete in box ones. So it started off that way, and then I just kind of kept buying them whenever I would come across them anyway. Like, I own multiple copies of some of these.
Right.
Not intentionally originally. I just forgot I kept buying them. That happens a lot.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely like both. It's even more interesting knowing that you worked on them. I was trying not to fanboy, but I am a huge fan of your work previously.
Thanks. Thank you, sir. Not what I'm doing now. You hate this shit, but I appreciate the.
No, this shit's cool. Like,
I'm kidding.
That's the whole reason I tweeted at you. I was like, maybe there's some weird small chance he'll bring me on.
Oh yeah, no, this is I have had such a good time learning about what you guys do, because I only knew Limited Run as, if you want your digital game, printed in a really cool special edition, that's what they do. But when I really dove into it, it's a really cool company you guys have. It's exciting shit, man. Which is why I think you should let me know something new.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that tweet. You did a funny tweet, I think, on April Fool's that I was like, is he trolling me?
No, I retweeted somebody did some Halo, I don't fucking know what it was, and he says, hey, can you build this up and retweet it? And they were saying limited edition was doing some, I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a Last of Us 2 special edition where Joel doesn't die. I don't fucking know. But it was something like that,
But yeah, Twisted Metal 1 for me, outside of that, and like Jet Moto were my first introductions to PlayStation. And after playing Jet Moto for like an hour, I was like, can we please go back to Twisted Metal? So I would just, make my neighbors play that. That was all we would play.
You play the multiplayer?
Heck yeah. 1 and 2. I always played Warthog. Yep. But yeah, and then God of War came out, and I honestly had no idea that game would be what it was, because like Josh and I, like I said, we're huge Dreamcast fans, and like QTE was a thing that was kind of made popular by Shenmue, but Dreamcast only had the audience it had, and then God of War like really I feel like that because of that game, every other game copied you.
Well, and you know where we got it from? We got it from the Incredible Hulk. I think it was called Ultimate Destruction or something.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't. They didn't do it a lot, but there were moments where the Hulk could go up to a character and like pick him up if you hit the A button and then smash him. And we're like, oh, there it is. That's how we do it. You know. So cool. All right, I do have a last question. This guy paid $5 goddamn to ask you this. People are rich, Douglas. I'm not a wealthy man. I'm not a poor man, but I'm not wealthy enough to ask this fucking stupid question for $5. I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be right. Douglas,
do I sit down or stand up to wipe?
No, but it's almost as dumb. Rambo Jr. wants to know, tell us the origin story of your fork comb. Which fork is the best? And Jaffe, why don't you use a fork comb to comb your beard? Because I'm not a goddamn moron, sir. Why do you comb your beard? He's got a big ZZ Top beard. I don't got what he got. He's like, that's not a fork comb. That came with the fucking, Taco Bell.
So the only reason I have facial hair, honestly, is at GDC a couple years ago, I got really bad razor burn shaving, and then I said, fuck this, and I stopped shaving, and then my wife liked it. So I just kept growing it out. And then I used to keep it kind of trimmed like you do, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I don't care about life anymore. So I stopped geting haircuts and trimming my beard for a while. I'm fully vaccinated now, so I'm going to go get one.
What's fascinating is I only knew you until today as your picture that is like, you almost look like Bradley Whitford, if you know who that is. He's an actor. And I'm like, and then when I did the research, you kind of look more like this dude, like kind of a rock and roll dude, and then I'm like, oh, so is that really you?
Yeah, that's me. That's the hair I'm going back to. Is I go between the emo hair and then the spiky punk hair. Like the bands I played rock and roll wise, they were always hardcore punk. So, it was always like mohawks and spiky hair. And then I grew up listening to a lot of pop punk, which ironically, I think you're in like San Diego, right?
Yes.
All the bands I like came from there, like Blink-182.
Yeah, my son is hardcore pop punk. He's doing music. Yeah.
The hairstyle also came from that. It wasn't necessarily like the emo stuff. Like I literally never listened to any of that. So it was funny in high school when people were, you're emo. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I listen to Blink. They sing about like having sex with their grandpas. But that is
punk.
Funny.
That's pretty punk.
The fork thing. We've been ordering a lot of DoorDash at work, and then I have extra utensils. And one day I just picked it up and started doing it on a call without thinking. And I was like, you know what? This is now my beard fork.
I've never thought of having a beard fork, but now I should acquire one. It looks very classy. What?
Class trash.
DoorDash is fucking dangerous. Let me just tell you that. It's dangerous because I'm like, okay, I'm going to cancel my account. Oh, one more Taco Bell order. It's disgusting. It's disgusting and I'm bad. Buddy, thank you so much. It was so nice. It was so nice to spend some time with you and meet you and have you come onto the show and talk to the good folks. Seriously, man, come back anytime you just want to shoot the shit about games. I'd love to have you just as a fuck it. Here comes Dougie talking about shit. You're not gonna spill the beans. I appreciate that. That's very mature of you. I hate that about you. But that said, though, I respect it. Seriously, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, and as well as Josh. Like I said, we were both kind of like freaking out, low key.
Well, I hope you had a good time. I hope you had fun.
It was fun.
Okay, good. All right, chat. I'm going to stay on the chat a little bit. I'm going to let Doug go. We've taken up too much of his goddamn time. Doug, we'll talk to you soon, bud. Thanks, man.
Cool. Later, dude.
All right. Let me see. I don't know how to hang. I mean, you can stay on if you want. There you go. All right. I'll talk to the chat a little bit. Merkham wasn't on there. Merkham, I'm sorry I didn't get your question. Now I see you on there. What's up, man?
I want to ask him, is he ever going to bring Siren Blood Curse from the PS3 store to a physical?
It's called Silent Blood Curse or Siren?
Siren Blood Curse, and like
I will
Infinite Blood Festival and stuff like that.
I will send him a tweet and I will get back to you on the Discord. Hang on. Remind me in 1 hour to text Doug about Siren Blood Festival.
No. Siren Blood Curse and Infinite Blood Festival.
Siri, remind me in an hour to talk to Doug about Siren Festival of Blood Curse. I'll ask him. I know. I got it, buddy. Thank you, bud.
All right, no problem.
All right, thanks for waiting, man. I'm sorry I couldn't get your call. The game is on PS Now, says Spirit. Yeah, but he wants a physical. He wants a physical copy. Sod, I know I got to get a producer, but honestly, I have this problem with the calls solved. We solved it for John Garvin's chat, and I just forgot it was something I have to do. I got to put it on my list. Rob the Mod, thank you so much for getting all the calls and screening all the calls. I appreciate it. The fine gentleman from Limited Run Games, I don't know. I don't know if they have converted me into a digital person, or a physical person. There's some good stuff they do, though, man. There's some good goddamn stuff they do. I may be reaching out to acquire some of their goodness at some point. You know what we should do real quick just for the fun of it? Here's what I'm going to do. Let's just do this. Copy invite link. Here you go. If you want to log in with your camera and come onto the Zoom for a few minutes, let's just fuck around, and then I'm going to hang up because I have shit to do. But there's the Zoom. Oh, yeah, the Twisted Metal box. $24,000 for a sealed Twisted Metal goddamn box. Come on now. I don't have one of those. I don't have a long box. That's goddamn crazy. But anyway, there's the link. If you want to zoom in, I'll bring you in. We'll talk for a few minutes. Oh, Rob did not have a question. The last time I brought Rob the Mod in, he's like, no, dude, I'm just in the room because I'm screening calls. If Rob had a question, I'm sorry, Rob. Are you still there? Anybody know how Saltiest Gamer is doing? Saltiest Gamer, if you don't know, had heart surgery today. He has a very popular YouTube channel. I have been on his show. He has been on our show. He's a good egg, and I guess they have to crack open his chest and dig around in his heart to fix some electrical wiring. So hopefully he's going to be okay. I'm sure he will. I mean, I'm totally sure he will. It's fucking, it's not simple. It's not simple. But it's, it's doable. Let me see if this is the thing. Yeah, here's the Twisted Metal box thing. Let me show you guys this. Holy fuck, man. Look at this goddamn thing. Look at this goddamn thing. Look at that. Look at that. This was sold on November for a 9.0 rated game. Look at these ladies. They're pretty. Okay, wait. How do I know what it sold for though? Where's the price? $29,000. $29,000. Carolyn, get on the chat. I need more limited run people. I want to talk to you about working with those guys. Come on now. I just sent, here you go, Carolyn. This is for you, pal. Come on now. Get on in here, you old so-and-so. I want to talk to you about the South. I grew up in Alabama. Maybe he won't be salty and finally have, oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's terrible. Look at that though. Oh yeah, Rob, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't know you had a question. I just thought you were fielding the calls, man. Yeah, that's something. Well, I guess no one's going to take me up on my offer. That means I'm going to take my ball and go on home, fellas. I may be streaming Days Gone tonight. I'll let you know. Let me let you know something, though. Hip Hop Gamer is coming on the show next week. We're going to do a long-form interview with Hip Hop. He put out a very interesting video the other day where he says there are no prominent, or I don't know if prominent's the right word, though, but he says there are a lot fewer black folks in the game journalism space. And if you Google, like, prominent or famous video game journalists, you don't see any black faces. And I absolutely want to chat with him about that. So that is going to be next week. I think Monday we're doing it, but I'll let you know. We are going to be streaming the DICE Awards this Saturday. That is members only chat. Anybody can watch it, but you need to be a member if you want to get into the conversation. And there you go. Take it easy, fellas. Be safe. Seriously, to the folks and people at Limited Games, Limited Run. Goodness gracious, that was a fun call. I hope you guys had a good conversation. I am out. I am going to go eat foodstuffs. I'll see